Or three. Gather around, freaks, as we continue our adventure through the filmography of John Carpenter and walk the roads in the month of madness. We find ourselves transparent, which is sort of like a metaphor for life. What does it mean to go unseen? What does it mean when a person looks right through you? We'll gather around the internet radio and gather around the internet campfire as we find out tonight on Hey, did you see this one?
The year is 2024, and two friends once again invite you to join them in revisiting or discovering for the first time the masterworks of a filmmaker who transcends genre, whose horrors have lurked in the dark, broken free from the ice, crawled straight from hell, or even pulled themselves from the very pits of a mad mind, who showed us the hidden corners of Chinatown, sent a man from the stars, and dragged us to New York, LA, and even Mars. Nearly unmatched as a genre filmmaker. Once again, Hey, did you see this one? Invites you to look upon the works of a genius. We present to you John Carpenter's In the Month of Madness.
We're here.
Hello.
How long that is? Maybe too long.
That was back when you were like, let's make these extra long so people can see how good I am at editing video. And then
I don't think I ever said that.
You said that?
You sick fuck.
I'm a sick fuck. Welcome everybody to Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly review, reaction, roundtable discussion podcast where we just have to ask, hey, did you see this one? It's also a show where we take a movie and we leave no stone unturned. We pull it apart completely. And we go on and on and on and on and on and on about the movie we're choosing. It is John Carpenter's In the Month of Madness, the final in the month of madness. We've met the Prince of Darkness. We've walked through the mouth of madness. We've walked through the mist, the fog, whatever. I don't know. We are. That's true. Well, we're talking about the memoirs of an invisible man this week. It's episode 167. If you're playing at home, it's season 3, episode 18. My name is Jason R. Phillips. I'm joined by my co-host, Stephen Visible Waters. And this week, from the United Federation of Podcasts, coming to the show for the first time, he's a star of podcasts and conventions. Please welcome to the show for the very first time, and hopefully not the last. We'll see if he gets through this. Jaemeel Robinson, everybody. Jaemeel Robinson.
Salute, friend. Salute.
Finally, he's here. He's here, folks.
Sorry,
we joined...
Eamon. Stephen and Jason got to me first.
That's hilarious. I want to be on Eamon on track personally because I'm a music guy. So when he gets that going again, let's all go on his show. Well, thank you for joining us. we joined the United Federation of Podcasts about 8 months ago at this point, and I've wanted to have everybody on, but we had like the rest of the year booked, and for whatever reason we had to wait till the new year. But you're here, and then in February other stars of the UFP will come on and talk about James Bond movies. But we're not here to talk about James Bond tonight. We're here to talk about the greatest movie of all time, possibly the highest fidelity movie I've watched on the show, as I watched it through the lens of the archive.org, recorded direct from VHS to the computer screen with all the commercials intact. Did you stop and watch the Miss Cleo commercial?
Oh yes, Miss Cleo. Shout out to UPN 33.
Oh my god!
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for your
UPN
tarot card reading.
Shout out to the Cool Whip squeezable commercial. I forgot that product existed.
I'm
And-
kind of jealous because I watched it regular. I watched a regular version of this in like 4K, and it looked great. And I was like, the music is pretty good. But I started watching the version you guys watched, and I was like, this is so bad. I can't do it. I can't
There's
do
music.
it. There's
Yeah.
music. Yeah, there is, and
I
it's
just
pretty
saw
good. Yeah.
One pixel the whole time, just one pixel the whole time. No, but the information's in my brain. I think that's
Yeah.
what matters. Information got into all of our brains. We can kind of just start going through the stuff here. We've introduced our guest. Check. Why don't we talk about? Why don't we ask Zardos for a quick synopsis? Zardos,
Zardos, are you there? Zardos.
Zardy.
Zardoz speaks to you. He demands you synopsize this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
That's right. So in the past, we would have our guests to do this portion. But we're moving away from that because I don't like to put guests, especially first-time guests, in the hot seat. So I'm going to take a crack at the synopsis this week. Essentially, Nick Howerton, what's his
Halloway.
name?
Holloway.
Thank you. Hollow Man.
Oh my god. Holloway. Oh my! I didn't even put that together.
He's some sort of rich. He's some sort of rich man who goes to a convention.
Stock analyst.
Stock analyst who goes to a convention at some sort of research center.
He goes to a lecture. Jason, what the fuck?
Let me check my notes here. Basically, we're seeing the story told through his eyes, as though he's writing a memoir, although it's never really explained who he's talking to. Maybe just at some point towards the end, he's
talking
saying
to
all
the
this
reader,
there's
whoever
no
reads
way.
his memoirs when he's done making them.
And essentially what happens is there's somebody spills some coffee on a keyboard and the building explodes and makes everything invisible. And then he spends the rest of the movie sort of trying to, despite being invisible, trying to escape the, I guess, FBI trying to come after him.
Yeah, he's
And-
kind of a sleaze bag, but I don't know if the movie wants us to think he's a sleaze bag. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Elements of sleaze. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much the plot of this movie. I don't know
Majority-
if
Yeah, the majority of this film is him essentially yearning after a woman that he is in love with, I guess, but like at the same time, Sam Neill is chasing him because he wants to sell him to like China or Russia or something. He's like, imagine what the Koreans would pay for an invisible man. You're like, okay.
And he wrestles with that throughout the movie. He wonders, should I be a bank robber? Should I be a secret stock analyst who I have people buy my stocks for me to trade? Should I look up the skirts of many women? That's the sleazy part. And he doesn't even come up with that idea himself. Daryl Hannah actually says that to
Hannah
him,
says
Alice.
that, yeah.
She's like, you should be a pervert. And he's like, I
He's
don't
like,
know
I'm
about all
a
that.
home dog, not a pervert. What the hell's
Yeah.
wrong with you? B? Can't believe I boned you in a bathroom. Public
And then at a Motel 6 or a Motel 5 even. I don't even know what was going on there. But that's essentially the movie we're doing this week, starring Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah and Sam Neill. There, it's got the as Steve pointed out to me in our chat earlier, it's got a lot of people from the regular John Carpenter sort of cast. Donald Lee plays a cab driver at one point. We also see Stephen Tobolowsky, who you've seen in many things, and Michael McKean. Tobolowsky. And Michael McKean is in this as well. So, and a young Patricia Heaton, who the one pixel that I was watching, I was like, I recognize her from somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like she's like a bitchy wife on a sitcom or something.
I know she loves somebody. As everybody
I started watching Everybody Loves Raymond again recently, and just to like have on when I'm playing video games. She's right almost every time. When I was a kid, I'm like, why is she so mean to Raymond? I'm like, because Raymond's a fucking idiot, incompetent asshole. He's just like a piece of shit. She's almost always right.
And anyway. The father's also terrible, and the brother's also terrible. So
yeah, a whole lot of terrible people.
Yeah.
Well, you're missing one more.
Who?
His secretary, Miss Keiko O'Brien.
Star Trek. Jason, you're on the UFP and you don't even know that that's Keiko O'Brien.
Rosalind Chow?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's Rosalind Chow, but
Rosalind Chow. Yeah, sorry. I recognized her from somewhere, but I didn't read that far down the IMDb.
She's Chief O'Brien, the most important character on Star Trek Next Generation's wife.
Yeah, and the star of many Star Trek ship posting memes.
Yeah, she gives birth in an elevator.
Yes, she does.
And Worf is the one that delivers it, and he's like, "Remain calm," or whatever.
Yeah, well, did you see Raw this week on Netflix?
I didn't.
I did not.
I know. See, because that's the intersection. Me and Jaemeel know wrestling. You and Jaemeel.
I drank raw milk.
Star Trek.
No, raw
I
milk.
don't recommend that.
Yeah. You are.
I saw a TikTok that said it's good for your brain or something, and then I threw up for it.
Enjoy all the worms.
Yeah. I got a worm farm cultivating in my lower intestine. All right. So,
do you want to talk about our brief history? I think it's going to be very brief.
This will probably be the briefest history we've ever done. A brief history.
A brief history.
That's right.
The stingers.
Well, there are no rules ever. This is another situation where the guest used to go first, but I'm going to go first. I saw this movie this week. Dreaded watching it for a long time. Based on the cover of this movie makes it look like I'm going to hate it. I didn't hate the movie, but I just have this disdain towards Chevy Chase from recent years due to him being, I'm saying this in the pre-show a little bit, but in the 90s, we didn't really know when people were like terrible on set. I was saying to Steve, like,
yeah.
Entertainment Tonight didn't do an expose on
they weren't like ba ba da da do da. So Chevy Chase is an asshole.
But now you have Joel McHale doing the equivalent of a shoot interview about Community and talking about how he almost fist fought Chevy Chase multiple times, and then other people are like, "Oh yeah, I almost fist fought Chevy Chase as well." Chevy Chase, best known for his falling down slowly shtick, and we should have known. If you see him in interviews, he thinks being an asshole is funny, but you're like, ha, 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 no way. And then you find out he's just actually like that. He's just fucking terrible. So I'm watching this movie going, why is he playing the straight man also? Like, why am I enduring this weird, like, oh, I'm like nice and fun Chevy Chase. Anyway, I watched it this week. That's pretty much my brief history. And then all that other stuff I said.
Yeah, that was just trauma dumping.
Yeah.
My childhood hero is an asshole. You used to love him.
That's how it felt.
You pervert.
That's how it felt.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this movie before, but I was talking to Jason throughout the week. I'm like, I haven't watched it yet, but I don't have it didn't stick in my mind, because I did go through like a Carpenter phase in my my film youth or whatever when I was going to school and everything. And it's just one of those ones that I watched it and was like, that was a movie, fine, whatever, and moved on. But the two things that stuck with me were Sam Neill doing some amazing like mime hostage situations where he's like walking down a hallway pretending like someone's manhandling him with like a gun attached to his head, and it's really and it still is good. Like I watching it yesterday, I was like, this is still holds up pretty well. And then like the unfortunate like brown face at the end, like always stuck in my head and being like, leash. Like even when I was like a kid, I was like, this doesn't seem right. I don't like this. And then watching it for the first time in a while, I was kind of expecting it to be much, much worse than it was, just based on how panned it is in like film communities and Carpenter fandom and all that kind of stuff. I was like, this is going to be the worst. And then I watched it and I was like, you know what? It's not great, but it's not the worst. It's definitely not the worst movie we've done on the podcast, but I don't even know if it's the worst Carpenter movie. I have to go through my like filmography. I have a list that I create, like a spreadsheet to like order them best to worst. It's good. It's going to be near the bottom for sure, but I don't even know if it's the worst one.
The algorithm loves tier lists. Maybe we do a tier list episode for John Carpenter
to kind of end off the month.
Yeah,
put that little cap on it to like send it on.
Put
its way.
thing
Check mark. Yeah.
Put thing at S tier.
Yeah.
Put this at.
Well, we are going to have one more because there's one we didn't have enough for a whole other month, but there's one floater, which is the Village of the Damned, which is going to it's going to reappear at some point, perhaps as a grimoire page.
Is Christopher Reeves in that one?
Yes. He's the father of one of the children of the corn. Yeah.
Village of
so
the
Jaemeel,
Damned.
That's the most I know about that movie.
Yeah, that Superman's in it.
Yeah.
Jaemeel, what is your brief history with this movie, if there is even one?
I've seen this movie before, but just like yourself, it didn't really leave an impression outside of two major scenes, and that is the running on the beach with the gear on, and the smoking scene.
Yeah,
the smoking scene and seeing the special effects. Those left an impression on me. Everything else, every plot detail, gone. So it was like seeing a new movie for the first time, or seeing an old movie for the first time. Yeah, if I had a more recent memory of it, I would have dreaded this episode.
Well, it seems like we're all in the same boat here, people.
Well, I just want to say
it wasn't great, wasn't good.
Welcome to a long line of first-time guests who get saddled with the worst movie of the month.
Oh,
a few times now.
You know my reputation in LLAP, where we're reviewing Star Trek episodes, and I embrace all the bad episodes.
Okay.
All the bad episodes. Your trash, give it to me. I'm gonna I'm Oscar the Grouch. I'm my pet monster. I'm just gonna feast on it.
I think the first time I met you, you were like, do you want to come on for this specific episode? And you gave me the title. I'm like, I don't remember which one that is. And you're like, it's the one where they go down to the really racist planet. And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'll come on for that.
This is Code of Honor. I think it's Code of Honor.
But what that means
is that the one where Tasha Yar fights with a spiky glove? And you're like, yes.
Yes.
What that means though is the next time you come on, you get to basically just we'll build a whole month around you. Essentially, you get to pick whatever you want to do. We have another former guest who had to do fucking Blue Demon and El Santo versus all of the Hollywood monsters.
What El Santo?
No, isn't that also a wrestling? That's a wrestling person too. Maybe we should pair them up. A couple of wrestlers.
And do a real wrestling movie. Maybe on my birthday month when I want to do a wrestling thing.
But during Jason's birthday month, he wants us all to get together and he wants to oil up and wrestle everybody live.
It's my birthday month. I do what I want during my birthday month, and we're gonna get oiled up.
Get my gear ready.
Get your boots. Get your elbow pads.
All right, should we dive into the production of this film?
Let's talk about this production.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
This is, of course, production talk, formerly known as director talk, but I wanted to broaden it because there are some things I want to mention. I didn't get the MPAA rating for this one because...
Jason, you should say we, not I. It's a collaborative decision.
we
Yeah.
decided because
you.
I was like, we should do this. Then you were like, yes, that's a good idea, Jason. You're the greatest. That's what you said. Thank you. The long one too. Essentially, I want to let you know that there's no MPAA because when the credits were rolling, first of all, on TV the credits don't make it that far, and then also you can't fucking read it.
Well, I know for a fact the version that you two watched doesn't start at the beginning of the movie. It's like sports highlights because it's like a VHS, and it's like the Baltimore Bing Bongs were how popular the thing, and it like cuts to like the movie. I'm like, what? That was when I was like, I need to find a better version of this immediately because I can't.
I was thinking about buying the movie.
I almost did too, and then I was like, free though, free 95.
Free is free. Yeah.
I will admit that I do sail the seven seas for a lot of the movies we do. I'm sorry, but that's just the fact of life. This movie's impossible to find. I could find it, but nobody's seeding it. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So no MPAA this week. Who cares? This movie cost between $30 and $40 million to make.
Mm-hmm.
Put all the money into the smoking scene, and it only returned 14.4 mil. So no sequel.
Which I wonder, like, how poor the marketing was for it, because like Chevy Chase was not a star at this point. You know, it seems like if they cut the trailer to make it seem like it was a comedy, then they probably could have got butts and seats pretty easily,
even if just for that first weekend.
Yeah, I wonder, like, did they advertise it as a romance? Did they advertise it as an action movie? What did they do? Or was it one of those things where like, there's not enough funny content in the movie to market it as a comedy, there's not enough action in the movie to market it as an action movie, and there's not enough kind of like thrillery elements to really make it a thriller? But like classically, thrillers don't do very well usually in theaters. Their bread and butter was always like blockbuster rentals and like sort of aftermarket stuff, right? Because they're difficult to advertise. It's always the same shit where it's like a cop, a crime, a mystery. There's a twisted man twisting people somewhere.
It also came out in February.
Okay. And that
like
same year,
dark
was
zone.
The Fugitive? It's 92, right?
92.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird year, as I recall. 1992. I can't think of a lot of things that came out that year.
I was a baby, so I don't remember. But
do a quick search here. Bram Stoker's
93.
Dracula.
Oh yeah, the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula came out. Oh, that's where all the seat. But that was probably a summer movie, right? That feels like a summer.
Yeah. South Central. That weird. No, Frankenstein, but it's not even the Frankenstein with
Julia Roberts.
It's not Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Sleepwalkers, Alien 3 came out, was kind of a flop. Lawnmower Man, Army of Darkness, Candyman. A lot of like
so far. The first Candyman came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reservoir Dogs. These are all movies that weren't big till like later.
So far, the best one you've said is Candyman. I think that's like the only one that I'm like good.
But what
about Class Act, which I think is House Party 3?
It is. It is basically.
Hidden player back.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jaemeel?
I'm just wondering what was like lighting up the box office at that point, because it seems like a weird time before the big blockbuster movies came out, but yet it's still. When did Jurassic Park come out? 93 as well.
3, yeah. I think because like in this era, and even up until like the 2010 2012 time period, like January February was sort of the time when you would dump all the shit that you knew wasn't going to do well. So they're like, we can't spend all of our advertising on this for a summer hit or a fall or winter time slot, so we're going to put it at the time where no one's going to go anyway. It's kind of like a coffin, you're putting it in a coffin and you're just waiting to nail the coffin shut. Put it in January and February. That's kind of where it goes.
So, interesting fact. February. It came out in February. A movie that did very well in February in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne's
Batman
World.
Returns.
Mm.
Wayne's World.
Okay.
Batman's
Batman-
Returns would have come out at Christmas time.
In like November, probably.
Actually,
yeah.
no. It came out in June.
Oh God, they're just like, we're gonna set it at
Oh.
Christmas and release it in the middle of summer. What a weird thing. Weird world. What a weird Wayne's World. Yeah, I mean Wayne's World that's another SNL alum, but
Yeah.
also that was probably huge with teenagers. But anyway, we should talk about the actual production of the movie.
Aladdin came out in '92. That's the last one I wanted.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aladdin, he got away with it, all the gold on his fucking magic carpet or whatever. He's like, gotta go.
Alfred Dean came and said, "Open sesame." That's right.
In the rough, in the rough, in the rough. Yeah, so this movie was haunted by an invisible man called Chevy Chase's ego. And it's like everything you read about this just makes it seem like it was set up to fail before it even started. Looking at the cast, you're like, they must have cast this movie thinking it was going to be a comedy. And then you look into it and you're like, oh yeah, it was supposed to be a comedy directed by the director of Ghostbusters, Ivan Reitman. And you're like, okay, that would have been a completely different movie. And you think about like the bits in the movie, right? Like, like the Chinese food and like when he's trying to put on his invisible clothes and stuff. And like, they would have like let that breathe a little bit more.
Running on the
he was
beach felt
directing it.
very Ghostbusters-y,
Yeah.
even.
Well, I mean, that's because there's a fucking literal ghost joggers in Ghostbusters too. I think you're just connecting imagery.
I am.
Yeah. But
Okay.
like, think about the Chinese food scene, right? How he's like trying to eat and then he gets the clamps and he does it. Like, think about how long they could have gone with that. Or when he's putting on his invisible clothes and he can't see the holes, like how much more physical comedy you can get going there and how many more bits like that there would have been. I think that when that kid comes in to drop off the groceries, he would have like there would have been an extended sequence of him like haunting that kid in the house, like chasing him around just to freak him out. Like there's so many moments that have comedic potential, but they don't let it sit long enough. And like obviously there's the risk of milking something so that it's no longer funny, but they don't even really start to milk it. They just kind of like, look at this thing that could be funny, and it's like it's funny for a second and then they move on to something that's like super dire. Like
My
Sam
biggest
Neill
thing.
being like- Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say my biggest thing was that Chevy Chase never like does any like tongue-in-cheek stuff where he almost looks at the camera when he's being funny. He's playing it so straight. It's so bizarre to see him, because if you watch something like the Vacation movies where he plays a straight man, but the stuff he's saying is so like insane and hilarious, he doesn't do any of that in this movie. And I kept waiting for him to be funny. And some of the physical comedy, like what you're saying, Steve, is like it's there. But I think Ivan Reitman could have pulled that out better.
And, like, he is a very
John Carpenter seemed like he wanted to make it more of like a horror thriller thing, and then
that's why they hired him. So okay, Chevy Chase, the star of the film, is the one who did not want it to be funny. It's not like studio involvement and John Carpenter didn't want it to be funny. Chevy Chase was like, I want to be Harrison Ford kind of thing, right? So he's like, what do I do to get that going? We'll turn this Invisible Man story into like, and it's like, brother, you're a fucking comedy legend going into a movie about being an invisible man. You can't make it like a weird noir detective novel where you're like, and then I didn't know who I was or where I was and what was it like. And it's like there's so many moments that are inadvertently funny that it's like him trying to be, and it's not like ironically funny, it's just kind of like funny that it's not funny, where you're like, this is funny because it's not funny, but it's also not the intent, which damages the credibility of the movie every second of the way.
You're right, though. At the time, he was in LA Story and Nothing But Trouble, and then he was in Hero after this, which I think, unless Hero's not serious, I think the other two are serious. Oh, Hero's the one where Dustin Hoffman like saves the rich guy's life. He
I
saves
don't know.
people
I've never
from
seen
crime.
it. Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
I just remember seeing the trailer when I was a kid, and Dustin Hoffman, they're like, do you want white meat or dark meat? He's like, actually, I'd like dark meat, please. And they're like, beggars can't be choosers. Anyway, back to what you were saying, Steve.
Yeah. Anyway, the more you read about like the production of this movie, the more you realize that like it was kind of doomed to fail, as I said. But you know, it was supposed to be a comedy. Ivan Reitman left because Chevy Chase wanted it to be a serious movie. They brought in John Carpenter. I think Chevy Chase and the producers of the movie fought for Carpenter to come in because they're like, he can do comedic elements, but he also is really good at that. But they were like, but he's a horror director. He can't make something that is like an intense thriller like this. It's like, just let him go. Let him do it. He knows what he's doing. And they're not wrong because I think he competently directed it. But then you read his perspective of the movie and it's like, he described working with both Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah as being a nightmare scenario where they just both refused direction. Like he would try and give them direction. They just would do whatever they wanted because I think they both were so inflated at that point. Like they were both stars and
Like Daryl Hannah. Come on.
I mean, she was pretty big. Like she's a pretty big star at that time. Like she was probably deflating a little bit, but like she was big enough to push around John Carpenter, I guess.
Jeez.
Which is unfortunate because, you know, John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors. And I think that when he has somebody he can collaborate with, like Keith David or Russell Crowe or, you know, or not Russell Crowe, Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell,
you know, like his main stake people that he loves to bring into things. Like it's most definitely them working together and having a good time making a movie. Whereas it seems like this was just a nightmare for him where he's like, I don't even want to fucking do this, but I'll try and do it as best I can, I guess. And to his credit, it feels like a John Carpenter movie. You know, like it has all the staples. It has the visual feel. It has the beats. It has the music. It has everything that makes a John Carpenter movie a John Carpenter movie. It's just unfortunate that like it seems like he got pulled through like a fucking Laffy Taffy pull. He got pulled through a Laffy Taffy pull while making it. And I think it kind of like damaged him a little bit after this, where he's like, I'm never going to work with studio involvement again. Like I'm not going to let an actor push me around, and I'm only going to make stuff that I want to make after this.
This also represents an interesting change in Daryl Hannah's career because she's in all these serious movies like Wall Street and Steel Magnolias, and then she does this, and her next movie is a TV adaptation of Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and then Grumpy Old Men and Little Rascals.
Yeah.
So she's right on the precipice of like, I'll do any movie.
They didn't even have to use CGI for that because she's actually 50 feet tall.
It's just so weird hearing that she refused direction. So the choices of her character
were hers.
And I'm like,
God, yeah.
That's what you thought was a good idea to present on screen, because her, like, say what you will about like Chevy's Nick Halloway, like Daryl Hannah's character, who I can't even remember her name.
Alice.
Sure, you could have said any name, and I would be like, sure.
Deborah.
Deborah. I'm like, okay. The choices and just she seems like she has zero agency. She's supposedly intelligent, but anytime Nick gives an opinion, she just falls in line. Right?
It's like one of those things where it's like, I think this is supposed to be like you're mesmerized by somebody or whatever, like to give her character credit, but at the same time, you're right. Like it just makes her character seem vapid and stupid. You know, like she's just playing her character in Blade Runner again. She's like an airhead robot.
This is not Ghost, okay? This is not Ghost. I want to feel your face. Like, oh my gosh.
Her line delivery was very much, she was just saying the lines too. I noticed she didn't put it like Chevy Chase, for what it's worth, is actually, you know, you see a bit of character progression as he's like figuring out like the rules of being invisible. But every time she's on screen, she's just like you guys are saying, just kind of playing a vapid.
I think it's the
stereotypical like blonde.
It's the definition of like of phoning it in, you know, where she's just there because she was hired, and like I assume she probably didn't have chemistry with Chevy Chase as well. Like you can imagine that
they're also fighting with each other while fighting with John Carpenter.
She's like, I need to get this over with. You want me to act? I will.
And there's like only so much I can glean from research and like, you know, hearsay from reports and you know, it's not all documentation from the three of them. It's sort of like coming from third parties, so you don't really know. But
there's no tell-all from Daryl Hannah. It's like
my experience on Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
A memoir.
Chevy Chase is like, I don't even remember doing that picture. What was that? What, Invisible Man? I was in that.
I don't know. I was so whacked out at speedballs at the time.
Yeah.
So the writers
I got
of this,
4 flu shots that year.
just because I wanted to. It's
Yeah.
funny. The writers of this movie are H.F. Saint, who didn't do anything else, Robert Collector, who did a couple movies, but Dana Olson also wrote The Burbs, Inspector Gadget, George of the Jungle. So I feel like this is Dana's sort of idea, put in place.
It's also based on a book.
And it's a kind of it's a modern take on the famous movie Hollywood monster, The Invisible Man 2.
The only reason I know it's based on a book is because when I was looking it up on the Internet Archive, the first link I clicked, I was like, okay, is this it? And then it was a book. And I was like, wait, hold on. Do I have to read the whole movie? No.
So it was a collaborative effort to make it this dumb.
Yeah. How dumb can we make it? Yeah.
And it might be literally a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, like too many ideas, too many being pulled through a Laffy Taffy puller, as you said, like H.F. Saint wrote the book. Sorry, my bad. That's why they didn't do anything else. The score was kind of whatever. It was just kind of like a little ding, ding
I think it was
in the
good.
background.
I mean, you guys were listening
It
to
could have been the version we saw too, because
Yeah,
I
that's a
was
good-
convinced
that's a good
that
point.
was there music as a question, because
Yeah.
it was in that version you could barely hear it. It didn't look I wrote that in my notes. It didn't feel like Carpenter does a great job with music and sound in his movies, and I just felt very disconnected in what I was watching, because the music is part of it, and not getting that full rich experience felt like it was a automatic step down in terms of a Carpenter watch.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will give the movie a little bit of credit here. The music was engaging enough. Like it all felt appropriate to the sequencing, and like I was liking it, I did watch a little bit of the version you guys watched, and the sound was so bad that I was like, because I'm a big sound nerd. I talk about sound all the time. I watched Alien Romulus this week, and I was like, this is the best sound design I've heard in so long. And then I watched this, and I was like, it feels Carpenter-y. It doesn't feel like a Carpenter score, but it feels enough that like I believe that this story could be taking place in the same version of San Francisco that Big Trouble in Little China takes place in.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe around the corner, Jack Burton is just pulling in and being like, I got a poker game to go to. I felt.
I have a little bit of information about the sound person. Her name is Shirley Walker. And what's interesting, her credits are pretty insane. She was an orchestrator and composer on so many like great movies, like Ninja Turtles, Escape from LA. I don't want to name everything, right? Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Whoa, that's one of my
toys.
favorite Batman movies.
I mean, right? Like even smaller stuff like White Fang and Radio Flyer, just like 90s movies that just Child's Play 2, Darkman, Arachnophobia. Like
Okay.
My favorite part in Batman Mask of the Phantasm is when the Phantasm comes up and goes, Tony Falcone, your angel of death awaits, and then pushes a giant tombstone on top of him. That's the best part. Make that into a live action Hollywood. Yeah. What the frick?
That might blow people's minds too hard.
Yeah, that blew my mind when I was fucking 8 years old or whatever.
I saw it in theaters. Yeah, I saw it in theaters when I was like 9 or 8 or whatever.
I remember like my mom was like, "Is this too scary for you?" Like while we were in the theaters, I was like, "No, this is amazing."
You're vibrating. Mm-hmm. I can't believe they made an animated movie that rules. It happens once a generation,
Yeah.
Your angel of death awaits.
Pushes a giant angel tombstone on top of him. So good. Such a good way to kill somebody.
Such a great movie.
Yeah.
And then like cinematography wise, it I don't know if it was because we were watching it on a VHS copy. Steve, you can probably speak to this a little bit better, but the commercial breaks made it feel like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah, no,
Also,
it feels like a real movie when you watch it as a
Okay.
movie and not with like, call me now for your free tarot card reading or whatever.
You see the pile of papers in the corner there? That's where it is. I think that looking back in the version I saw, it was not an ugly film. It was beautifully filmed, well lit. I do like the locations that they had. They were interesting at the very least. From the houses to even the men's club.
Yeah.
Like we were on a journey at the very least.
yeah,
We get
Right?
to we understand his life just
Yeah.
based on the environments alone. Yeah, while I was watching it, I was like, this is really interestingly shot. But that's just John Carpenter knows how to make things interestingly shot. But like his apartment, even you're like, okay, he's clearly affluent, he's rich or whatever. But then like that shot where it showed when they come to capture him and they like go over the ledge and you see down this like weird sort of flattened star. I'm like, this is well done. Like this is not a bad movie. Like I was expecting this to just be John Carpenter's Paycheck, the movie, but I'm like, no, he's trying. Like he's trying to do what he does and everything. But you're right. Like they all have character and they inform his character, which is important because otherwise we probably wouldn't really get who he is, because even though he's narrating the movie the entire time, all you know about him is that he's scared of what's happening to him. You don't really get a depth that you would otherwise, and those environments kind of inform it a little bit. Yeah. So I agree with you, is what I'm saying. Yes.
You're on the level.
Yeah.
I'm not Carrot Top. I don't have props for everything. Don't worry.
It's the only, you only have level jokes. You're like, as long as we can get as much juice out of this level as possible. I don't know. I don't have a lot more to say about the production other than, like it sounded like it really sucked for everybody involved equally, except for maybe Chevy Chase, who was probably just like yelling for more cocaine in a bathrobe or something.
I think the most John Carpenter moment for me was the matte painting of the building that really reminded me of the two Escape movies, like when they're showing LA and New York at a distance. It had that same like kind of, I don't know how to describe it, almost like there's Vaseline on the lens or something, but in a good way, like a soap up. The building was a matte painting, wasn't it?
No. The building, the ground beneath the people walking, I think might have been a matte painting, but like the building itself was just the same building, just with like I guess they probably painted over certain bits of it to make it look like it was floating, but then they also built this really cool ass set. Like this is the moment in the movie that I was like, does this movie maybe rule? Is when he wakes up and there's like chunks of the building, and
that
I'm
was
like,
really great.
Yeah.
and my brain was going crazy. I'm like, is this Mouth of Madness style? Like, is he in some other dimension? Is he in some invisible dimension?
In between
Then it's not
dimensions?
that cool. Where you're like, no, this isn't Doctor Strange. It's just he's just in an invisible. He's just invisible.
Okay.
But yeah, I had such low expectations for this movie that things like that really spiked for me, that made me be like, oh, this is sick. Like I really like what they're doing visually here. Even though there's a fucking racist guy who's starring in this movie. Like I can get over it, I guess, for this moment.
But I think what's interesting about it is they took every possible bit you could do with a man who's invisible and just explored all of it. What would it be like if he ate food? What would it be like if he smoked? What would it be like if he had to do a quick costume change and now he's, naked, or is he?
Do more, Jason, do more. Do all of them. I want to hear everyone.
What if he dressed up like the old school Invisible Man and pulled the bandages away? What if they painted his face up to look completely ridiculous?
What if he ate and then he barfed, but we only get to see it from when he's invisible? Whoa! Yeah.
What
Can you
happens
see
when he
clear
goes into the
food?
rain?
Yeah.
What happens if he leaves all the cocaine out at the construction site?
And it gets all over half of his suit.
Yeah. Fun fact, that was actually just on him when they were doing the special effects. They're like, Chevy, what? What?
What?
Yeah.
Should we
Yeah.
talk about this movie then?
Yeah, let's get into the fucking body of the episode.
The body of the episode.
We talked about that's the longest production talk we've ever done, probably, and this is us making the show shorter. So let me set the stage.
Hold on, take a breath, Jason. You're underwater.
I'm underwater.
Yeah.
We get a credit sequence, and there's an investigation going on with we get that infrared heat sensor stuff. So Chevy, played by Nick Halloway, played by Chevy. He's invisible. He's trying to make a video about his situation. Oh, I guess that's the memoir, right? I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's writing a memoir.
And we see the first big effect, which is him chewing gum as an invisible man, which is great.
Which is really, really cool. I think it's like you can like he pushes it up against the inside of his teeth even, and then blows the bubble, and you're like, I don't even really know how they would have done this. Like it's not stop frame. I don't really get it.
Like a green straw, maybe? And then
I don't know. But like even I guess like it would have been pressed on like I don't know. Like this is the thing is like I can't really without pure CGI, like I don't really understand how they did it. Oh, I'm not even on here. Sorry. I was
You're invisible.
Man. Yeah, this is how they did it. Wing. But it is impressive however they did it. You know, we can speculate, but like I don't really know. And like I thought about it for all of like 5 minutes afterwards where I was like, how the fuck did they do that gum thing? And then I'm like, you know what, just enjoy it. Maybe there'll be more cooler versions of this invisible. But like I think that's the one that impressed me the most out of like everything. Because like I understand special effects enough beyond that I kind of understand how they did the rest of them. But that's the one that I was like, that's not like a CGI bubble. Like they figured out a way to do that. And I don't get it.
I think there's something wonderful about this era of special effects, and just a little bit before too, 80s, 70s, and early 90s, before the rampant CGI use, where it's like, you know, someone had a good idea how to make this scene work. And they did it, and they pulled it off, and we get to see it on film, and we're left wondering, how did they do this? Whereas nowadays it's just like, oh, they just ran it through a computer, and they rendered it over the course of 6 months. And paid $2 million to get that bubblegum scene.
And 30 people worked on it at different stages.
Yeah.
Like this guy did the framing, and this guy did the coloring, and this guy did like But
whereas
like
this one could have been someone with a great idea. And it's 3 dudes, some chewing gum, some double mint Wrigley's, right? And
doing
a little bit of
for
elbow
months.
grease.
Yeah, they're in a weird lab, like being like, okay, does it look right? And they're like filming it, and then they finally show John Carpenter, and John Carpenter's like, good, good, I like it. Let's do it.
It's ingenuity that we're seeing. Filmed.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that like makes it even more impressive is they ramp it up with him like taking the walkie-talkie and the pencil or whatever, and like doing things that you can understand how they did those tricks, right? And then that trick is the one, because he even says like, oh, I know, here's one that'll get you. And then he opens the pack, and like even the wrapper coming off is like pretty impressive, and then it going in, and it's like moving around, and then it like gets pressed against the teeth and blows up. And I'm like, man, this is good. This is good. And so like, again, low expectations, spike. I'm like, whoa, this is good. Like, I like this. How is this happening? This is like Hollow Man level of Invisible Man.
Except the Hollow Man was a CGI 90s mess, I assume.
Paul Verhoeven was watching, being like, I'm going to make this, but it's going to be way more rapey.
He's going to look up all the girls' dresses.
But there's no scene in Hollow Man where, a character goes, bitches leave. Right? Like,
in Hollow Man, there's a lot of other horrible shit.
Okay. What's unique about this too is it's set up like we're gonna, how when a movie starts at a certain point and then the movie catches up to that point.
Yeah.
For the rest of the movie, we're just hearing him in this room talk about his life, I guess, and we never reach this moment again. I just wanted to point that out because I was fully expecting it to be one of those movies.
Oh, okay.
Oh, like
We
it would
did
go
though.
back
We
to
did
him.
catch up to this point though.
Did we?
Yes, because during the final confrontation, he gives that videotape to
Oh,
Samuel's
yes.
character, right? To prove, like, he's like, okay, well, so he gives him a copy, but he also he threatens to send a copy to specific individuals that if they just do anything with Daryl Hannah's character, it will leak out to the press and to other people. So
Yeah.
he
Okay.
uses it.
Okay.
So we also get dubbing of a VCR dubbing happening in this as well. We don't see it; it's not on camera, but we can
You
assume
hear
it
it.
does. He
Like,
makes a copy.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of reminiscent of like the intro to Big Trouble in Little China as well, and like which I also love, where it's like, now I'm gonna tell you the story of Jack Burton or whatever, and like this is like, now I'm gonna tell you the story of how I became invisible, and it's not as exciting as you would want, but it's more exciting than a boring story, I guess.
If it didn't have that kind of hook at the beginning of it,
yeah,
and we just
magic.
saw everything kind of leading up, it's a long time before we really get something to grasp onto. He's not necessarily the most charismatic character.
Mhm.
No.
So just imagine like 25-30 minutes before you actually get something that's visually stunning to kind of grip you.
Yeah.
That would be a long wait.
We kind of learn about him that he basically likes the club, he likes his bar, he likes to gamble. His best friend is George, played by Michael McKean. I wouldn't even say they're really friends. they're work acquaintances.
I assume that the richer you become, the less your friends are actually your friends. It's more just like I have to be associated with these people for social status, and also like I can't really keep my old friends because they can't keep up with me. So the only people I can hang out with are other rich people or whatever.
The richer you get, the more it becomes the scene from American Psycho where they're comparing business cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope to be that rich one day. From this podcast.
Why? Yeah. 5 years from now, me and Jason are so rich that we only compare our penises and our business cards with each other.
Yeah.
So
And I'll be
And we're
across the
constantly
street
trying
at
to-
the I'll be across the street at the burger joint, just looking at you, shaking my head. I'll be like the kid from Hook.
yeah.
With the burger.
Dun, bum, 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 bum.
Do it, Peter. Go ahead.
You're
Yeah.
doing it, Peter. So he wants to have dinner with them, and he sees Daryl Hannah, and they're immediately in love for some reason, which is just classic.
I mean, they show like
fucking Hollywood movie making.
this is
Little
also
banter.
like I think this is
Yeah.
bad editing on the movie's part. Is he sits down. There's like an immediate sort of like connection between the two of them or whatever. And then it cuts to them like their faces are so close together, and they're just talking about how much they love skiing, they love blah 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 blah, 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 and they like love back and forth. And it makes me think that this is hours later. Like everyone else has left, the bar is closing down, it's just the two of them there. No, they're still at dinner with the other people that they're there with. Like imagine being there, like you just invited your friend over for just come hang out for 5 minutes, and then he just starts like overly hitting on the other person you've brought, and then they both disappear into the bathroom for what I assume is, I don't know, 8 to 15 minutes.
Well, it just cuts to them making out in the bathroom, and then
They fucked in the bathroom.
well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Like, he's like, I don't want this to be like a sleazy like affair, and he's like, I don't care, let's bang, and then it just cuts to them.
No.
Like,
What she
leaving
says
the
is,
bathroom.
I don't want this to be a cheap affair. And he says, well, how much do I owe you?
Yes.
Yes.
He did.
Anyway, he's trying
Which
to
makes
fuck.
it 10 times more sleazy in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, oh my god, this guy's gross. I mean, they knew, right? Fucking Deborah from
They had to.
Spinal Tap and Everybody Loves Raymond knew, right? When they came back, like they've been gone for 15
Why do you guys
minutes.
smell like that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Ugh.
Don't shake his hand. I think here it just cuts to them pulling up to the
Wash
building.
his hands?
He didn't even. No, he doesn't seem like a guy who washes his hands.
No.
He's like,
too
I only
rich to
wash
wash
my
his
hands
hands."
once a day when I'm in the shower. You're like, ugh, gross.
Yeah. Spot on.
He seems like that kind of guy. He's
Yeah.
like, I need to build up my antibodies or whatever. Doorknobs are
Hands for
good.
What?
Yeah.
So at this point, it's the next day. He got 10 out of 10 drunk that night, and then the next day he goes to this seminar, or this seminar at a high-tech research facility called Magnoscopic Laboratories, and he spends like 5 minutes, 10 minutes trying to find a place to take a nap.
Well, he's there to like, I guess because he's a stock investor, he's there to like see whether or not this is a valuable company to invest stocks in, which I guess is how stocks work. I don't know how stocks work, but I assume there are stock advisors that have to go to these types of lectures and stuff to be like, okay, well, is it worth the investment? But he's too drunk and he falls asleep, I guess, for 15 minutes. This is the other thing that I did kind of like, because it's pretty obvious, and I noticed it right away, is that he like almost perversely checks his watch. Like it's like a tick almost, where he's constantly checking his watch. And he falls asleep in the lecture and he wakes up and he's like, 15 minutes in and they're not even at the birth of Christ yet. Okay, wake me up and when they get there. And then he goes looking for a men's room, I guess, to sleep in the toilet. Like, what is he? I don't know what he's.
He
like,
falls asleep in like a sauna.
No. I know that he falls asleep in a sauna, but he's asking for a men's room. So I'm like, is he gonna sleep on the toilet? Like, is that what he's actually looking for? Like, I've done it before and I'll do it again. I'll sleep in the handicap stall or whatever. Just like, lie.
Did they have men's saunas in bathrooms like in the early 90s and 80s?
That's what I was wondering.
Research facilities, and it just seemed very weird.
We're missing
everything
an
about it
element
is weird,
too. He falls asleep in the seminar and then gets up and goes looking. He wanders into a lab and just like annoys a guy and then the guy like spills his coffee on the keyboard and everything starts going haywire.
He doesn't even annoy him though. The guy actually seems genuinely happy to tell him where the bathroom
to like
is.
Explain.
Yeah. He's like, oh, no one ever talks to me in this lab. It's right over there. And then when he pulls his arm back, he knocks his coffee off of what I assume is like a coffee stand that he's installed himself to put his coffee on, but it's so terribly placed that he knocks it over and it lands right on the keyboard, which
and
then
the keyboard catches on fire.
Meltdown.
Yeah,
and
I've
then
never seen a keyboard catch on fire before.
Listen, I hadn't watched this part, and Jason sent me a message saying like the way he turns invisible is dumb, so I was expecting to be really dumb, and then I watched it and I was like, not that bad. It wasn't that bad. Like I've seen worse lab malfunctions than a coffee on a keyboard.
I'm just glad that there wasn't, I don't know what it's called, like the mechanism where it's like one thing leads to another, like a system, like, oh, he drops the coffee and someone slips and hits a button. That button just causes a gurney to move.
We call that a Pee Wee Herman situation.
Yeah.
There's
Or
an
a
episode of
mouse
X-Files that
trap
has the
situation.
name of it. I know what you mean though. The something machine.
Yeah.
Rube Goldberg machine.
Goldberg. Yes, thank you. Rube Goldberg. So he takes a 10-minute nap in the sauna as we discussed.
Whoopi Goldberg machine. We should call it a Whoopi Goldberg machine from now on.
Rolled up sleeves.
That's a guy. There's a T-shirt in there somewhere. Make a little note there.
Writing it down.
We like to think of funny things that we can turn into T-shirts later. I think a Whoopi Goldberg machine is funny.
I like the cut of that chip.
Yeah,
There's
it's
there's
just her
something.
career. It's like when she's like the T-Rex cop, and then Guinan, and then her on The View, and it all
like
leads to one thing.
The shape of her face and all the like parts, her like glasses and her dreads and her.
Yeah.
So the building evacuates while he's just passed out in there. Everybody leaves the building. Everybody exits the building. He gets blasted by gamma rays and becomes the Hulk. And then the credits roll, and that's the movie.
It's just a piano theme to the ending of the Hulk. It just
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. Or the animated cartoon show, the Hulk theme, where it's like Dr. Banner dealt it by gamma rays turns into the Hulk.
Wow. I can't believe we both remember that perfectly.
Ain't the unglamorous. Yeah, I remember it. We remember all the words.
Then we were introduced to Sam Neill's Jenkins, I think his name is. Is that his name, Jenkins?
Leroy.
Let me double check that. Yeah, David Jenkins.
David Jenkins. Yeah.
David Jenkins.
And he's in court, and all of the every single death that he's being I don't know. I don't even know. Like, what are they? They're just questioning him, I guess. But like, it's all about deaths, and all of them are this man fell to his death, and this man also fell to his death. So like, I guess we're led to believe that. At first, my like science fiction brain
Also foreshadowing.
Yeah.
My science
trying to mention it.
Yeah, my science fiction brain was being like, oh, he's involved in all these sort of like X-Files mysteries, and because the building is like getting fucked with, maybe like the buildings disappear and people fall to their death, and they find them fall to their, and then they're like blaming it on him. So I was like, whoa, is he like a good guy? And like, he's just like, and it's like, no, he's probably just throwing people over balconies. Like, he's probably just like, your use is come to an end. Ha!
Also foreshadowing, because I'm pretty sure at the end, spoilers, he's trying to throw Chevy Chase because he's kind of at his wit's end. He's trying to push him over the edge.
Yeah.
But then, of course,
I mean, it's the best way to make it look like suicide, I guess, is to throw somebody off a building and be like, he couldn't take it anymore, people. I was trying to get him to not jump, and he jumped.
They loved throwing bad guys off buildings in the 90s. Ninja Turtles ran to a garbage truck.
Ninja Turtles, this movie.
Die Hard.
Other movies, I'm sure. RoboCop.
RoboCop, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Paul Verhoeven loves a good fall death.
I love when fascists fall to their death.
That's my Paul Verhoeven voice.
Your Paul Verhoeven is so great. He's naked while he's saying it too.
Yeah, and he's in a shower. Yeah,
the shower is cold. It's very cold. That's why my penis is so tiny.
Now get that Jesse Spano girl to fuck in a pool. I guess.
Kyle McLaughlin, come over here.
Get Kyle McLaughlin on the phone.
Tell him I want him to go hard.
Fucking striptease or fucking showgirls. I guess they are made aware of the accident because I think they're going to be like going off to check it out. The building has the invisible spots, which were great. Some sort of molecular instability due to magnetism, I think, is how they kind of explain it away.
Yeah, magnets, you know.
How
the fuck do they work? The clown posse would say.
Insane clown posse would say. And it's made parts of the building see-through, but they're still there. So we get a lot of great little comedy moments of people like walking into walls because they think it's open. They're like, boom. I don't know. I chuckled. I had some really sensible chuckles in this movie.
When he hits it, boom, you can. I was watching 4K. I know you guys were watching fucking dusty old VHS tapes or whatever. Yeah.
0K.
There is a smudge that's left on the window, and I was like, smudge. But then I was like, but that would make sense because that's grease from your body that would be there. It would still smudge even though it's invisible. So I was like, good. That's
something I was wondering about throughout the movie. Like if he has a little smudge on his face from eating, like any of that stuff would show up probably in reality. Right. But, I guess they kind of do that when he's just a brown faced head running down the street later in the movie.
I mean, but when it shows the food in his stomach, I was like, is it going to show it go all the way through? Is he going to have like oh, I got to take a dump over here.
It seems like they go out of their way. And once he gets to Mike McKenna's house, he only orders things that are clear that would pass through his system.
I'm on an all clear diet. Yeah,
I need some bouillon.
Yeah, you have any of those bouillon cubes? You know, the ones that it's like a powder. It's like, yeah, we have those. Which one is the most clear? You can tell the guy on the other side is like, what the fuck do you mean? He's like, I'm on an all clear diet. My doctor says I gotta drink only clear foods, which I like. I like that. Yeah. I think that's a funny. That seems like a holdover from when it was a comedy. You're like, yeah, this movie could be so funny.
I need 3 liters of vodka and some bouillon cubes, and that's what I'm going to live off of forever.
Yeah, beef vodka. Yeah.
I don't know what Worldmind was referring to here, but just that comment is great. Apropos of nothing, it's a public shower.
Oh, it's when we were talking about how Paul Verhoeven was showering
Oh,
while commenting on this video. Yeah.
We get the sequence of Nick discovering his invisibility. The people can see a floating hat at this point too, which kind of gives away that he's still in the building. And they grab Nick and take him out of there. There's a great sort of moment where you realize that the people who are not invisible are acting against a disembodied voice, but they do also cut to Nick's point of view as well. But there's a lot of funny to the audience only people act, like you were saying earlier about Sam Neill acting with the gun to his head and his arm behind his back. There's a lot of funny moments where people have to act against nothing and play it up for the laughs. And that's another one of those situations like we were just talking about. The comedy fingerprints are all over this movie, but for some reason they had to play everything so straight the rest of the time that it almost boils down to just being a romance.
I will say that
thriller.
For what John Carpenter had left to work with, he still made stuff funny.
True.
John Carpenter is not incompetent when it comes to comedy, and you can see that in almost all of his movies. The Thing, hilarious.
No, I'm saying The Thing, not supposed to be a funny movie, but there's some moments in that where we were talking about last week.
That's just competent filmmaking, right? And we've talked about it a million times on the show, and so has everybody who ever existed who's seen a movie. But horror and comedy go very closely hand in hand. And he understands, the LA movies, the Mars movies, all that shit is very funny. They Live is extremely funny. All of his movies are funny. He's not just a thriller or a horror maker. He's making movies. He's just making movies that has everything in them, and humor is always there. And as much as, I guess Chevy Chase was no comedy, he still stuck it in. He still made Chevy be funny. The moment where they go in the room and someone's been wearing my clothes, and Chevy Chase is just standing there with his hands on his dick, and you're yeah, he doesn't have to hide his dick. That's for us. If he's invisible, why is he hiding his wiener? Because it's funny. That's why.
Because it's funny. Also, this line that comes up here where it's they're gonna take me to a lab and stick tubes up my ass. Is I didn't say it funny, but it was.
I appreciate your attempt.
Yeah.
Thankfully, when you're rich, you don't have to worry about being funny.
Yeah.
No.
You just have to worry about getting a good business card.
Just an off eggshell white.
Egg white. Mine's made of egg whites.
Mine's made of egg whites, hardened.
It's disgusting.
The font is still embossed. You can still feel it when you touch it.
The font is made with the yolks. Burnt yolk.
There's some weird there's some weird sci-fi stuff in this movie that also isn't that sci-fi. They just have goggles that can see heat signatures. They've got those weird guns. They've got real guns and then these special guns. I think they're
they're paint guns.
Yeah, they're painting.
Yeah,
for painting walls, I guess. But it's to mist the room so that they can see them. They want to hit them with a red streak or whatever.
Which is a great idea.
I wonder if Ivan Reitman wanted a segment from their point of view where it's just a parody of Ghostbusters where they're getting ready to go in and take out. They've got. They kind
of have not
right
before they go into the
yeah.
And it's good. And also that whole moment where they keep accidentally crushing his hands is very funny. This is that is the moment, not the first one, but the second one where the guy just heals his hand and he's I think I gut chuckled out loud. I was again, they got him again. Oh, what poor luck he has.
And we also see them have to fight nothing because he's invisible during this segment as well, which is
just
fun.
like Atreyu from the Never Ending Story.
Right. And then the building fully disappears, like I think Poltergeist. The host disappears at the end of that. I think some horror movie. The Simpsons parody it, where the host like disappears in this.
Get out. Get
out. Yeah. What if we
And
could just
then,
live here together? Could you give me a moment to think about it? They all leave
Yes.
the house kills itself.
Yeah.
Because the house does not want to live with the Simpsons at all.
No, of course not. They're terrible. And then we go to commercial break as Chevy Chase runs away. When we come back from commercial
did you guys
break,
write down what the commercials were?
I didn't. The ones that stuck in my head really were the Miss Cleo one.
Miss Cleo.
I only watched the first two segments because I had time, and then I was finishing the movie today, and I was like, I don't give a shit about any of this. But
You said it was 2001?
2001, yeah.
So the commercials probably would have been like, "It's Spider-Man. He's here."
No, there were the two commercials.
Tomb Raider
movie
was
commercials was
yeah,
one
Tomb
was
Raider.
Free Jack.
Free Jack was
He had
on
Free
next.
Jack repeatedly.
Yeah.
He died, and then he came back into the future, and he's
The
on
lineup for the
run.
night was this movie, Free Jack, Martin, an episode of Martin, Fresh Prince, and then some Law and Order style show. That was like the lineup for the night.
UPN. Buffy is coming to UPN.
Wait,
Yeah,
Free
but-
Jack and then
And
oh
then
my
Martin,
God.
and then
'Cause Free
Fresh
Jack
Prince.
is also a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Free Jack. Yeah, the Free Jack movie.
It was
with
probably
the-
Saturday night or Sunday night.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably,
So it'd be like
yeah.
Fresh Prince at 1 a.m. after Free Jack.
Yeah.
And the two movie that they were advertising that were in theaters were Tomb Raider, Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raider, and also the score. But the way they
Ooh.
edited it was like the score with Robert De Niro, was it Angela Bassett and our good The Incredible Hulk,
Eric Bana.
no, not Hulk
Or
The
Lou
Incredible-
Ferrigno.
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton.
Yeah. A score, right.
I love that movie.
Mhm.
They made it so unappealing with all the quick cuts. I'm like, was this commercial directed by the maker of Hackers? Because it was just insane.
Right. I mean,
all
everything
the
in
digital
2001,
effects. Yeah.
was directed by the director of Hackers, or at least his proteges.
I got the sense too that Tomb Raider had been in theaters for a while because it was one of those like quick, like, see Tomb Raider in theaters now, and then that was the whole commercial
Yeah.
without any like clips from it.
Yeah. I
So
remember
it's
every
running
time I
ar-
went to go see one of those Tomb Raider movies, I was disappointed there was no magic, like in the way that I wanted it to be. You know, I
Oh,
wanted it
there
to be
was
more
magic,
magical.
but it was in the Wonder Bra.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Up and together.
Plastic surgery, the magic of plastic surgery. Anyway, Angelina Jolie is a beautiful woman, and we should not disrespect her.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's right.
Changed my life. That one, the reverb, still going.
Yeah,
Am I underwater?
it goes forever. No, you're
So, Invisible Man is running around invisible. He forgets he's invisible. He runs out in front of a truck and he's like, "Stop! Stop!
good.
Stop!"
Yeah, what the fuck? You know you're invisible at this point. He
almost
forgot
died.
that he doesn't
Credits.
have the hat on anymore, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, even if you saw a hat floating in the road as a truck driver, you wouldn't stop for the hat. You'd be like, "There's a hat floating there. This is weird." You wouldn't stop though. You would just plow through the hat. You wouldn't
I think
assume an invisible person is wearing it.
I think my favorite sequence from a comedy standpoint is this next bit where there's like the drunk fired guy yelling, and then he directs him into a cab, you know.
He weekend
I
and
was-
birdies him.
Yeah, basically
It's pretty good though too. This is maybe like the best comedic bit of the whole.
knocks him
movie.
out,
Yeah,
puts him in
which
a
is
cab.
unfortunate because it's so early on, and you don't really get another good thing like this.
Exactly what Jaemeel was doing there,
Yeah.
using his lips.
Yeah, and then but there's also like one moment where it's clearly just the guy going like doing it with his own mouth, and he does a really, really good job. I was like, that guy, he should have got paid more than whatever they paid him. They probably paid him like $800 for that role or whatever. They should have gave him double it.
He should have just become his like sidekick for the rest of the movie, which is a weird thing. He has no allies besides Daryl Hannah in this movie until
he has no friends, Jason. except
right.
for
Okay,
the
I guess
one-
George.
Yeah, Spinal
sort of.
Tap shows up.
I also made a note. He weakened at Bernie's him. Then he pretends to puke once he gets to the location in San Francisco, and he's like, "Oh, I just need to go to a new place." So that
There's also
guy's
a moment
gonna,
where the guy wakes up in the car and he's like, "Is this a cab?" And the driver's like, what?" And then he just like elbows him in the fucking head. Like, yeah, that's pretty
So
good.
this dude wakes up, has a concussion,
Yeah.
checks his wallet, it's empty.
He's got like 2 giant welts on his head, and he's like,
Yeah.
"What happened to me last night?"
He lost his job,
Yeah.
so he's totally screwed.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have ever had like one of those moments where you're just arguing with nobody, like out loud on a corner while hammered. But
it's been a
No?
while, but
it's me.
I smashed a cell phone once, and to this day I cannot fucking.
Oh, I would never do that. I'm not a psychopath.
It was a Nokia. I put it back together and it worked.
Oh
fine.
well, yeah. Never mind.
Poor
I
ground.
remember. Yeah, there's a fucking crater in the ground where I threw the Nokia. I remember being really mad about something and then rocking it into a wall and then putting it back together, and I can't remember what I was.
Oh, I saw this online. You were like, "No head tonight," and then you like threw your phone in the ground and then jumped on your skateboard.
Yeah, I broke my skateboard and
Snapped it in
I
half.
became Vine famous. And now it's in every Vine compilation for time immemorial. Right. So Sam Neill and his co-worker and his crew wonder what happened to Nick. They want to keep Nick on the down low though, and Sam Neill is just like so serious about this. But he's almost like a funny character himself with how
He's like
serious he is.
he's an evil villain. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
playing a very mustache twirly type guy. Like my favorite part in the movie is when like he sneaks in the office and Sam Neill is like tricking him into yawning and shit. I'm like, this is so good. Yeah, this is so good. Yeah,
It's a good bit. It's a good bit.
He was smart enough to have a system set up where he can, tap his foot and
lock him in. Yeah. He's like, just in case I ever have an invisible man in my office, I need to be able to lock the door.
Or a woman.
Yeah, it could be a woman. And if that bitch gets in here, you're like, whoa, what the hell? Sam.
I have to step away for 2 seconds. Walk us through Nick trying to eat Chinese food for the first time.
Okay. This is one of the moments in the movie that I was like, I feel like I would still be able to do this because I can as long as I get my hands on the food, I know exactly where my mouth is. And I don't have to, you're closing exactly. Even with your eyes closed, you know where it goes. It's your body intuitively knows where your mouth is. That's like saying like, if you're blind, you have to get someone else to feed you or something, which is like kind of weird, but I get for like the bit.
Last sake.
Yeah. It's like, they have to do it. But like I said earlier, I think that this could have been way funnier, right? Like, because, if you've ever been like discombobulated or, like in any way, even if you're just like too hungover or something, like sometimes just grabbing something can be really a task.
You're disoriented.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like if your hands were invisible. You would have.
It's an interesting aspect where it's like, okay, I'm going to grab something, and from our point of view, like it's hard to not to have that the idea, the feeling of doing something, but you're not seeing the action occurring, right?
Yeah.
So you're completely disconnected from it. I thought it would have been an interesting idea if for him to solve the issue would have been to close his eyes, and then he's not so reliant on his like visual perception of things.
I
He's
hate to
just
tell you,
feeling it out.
Jaemeel, he constantly says that he can see through his eyelids when he closes his eyes throughout the movie.
Very good point. Very good point.
He says, when I'm trying to sleep, I can see through my eyelids. I'm just staring at the ceiling. It's really hard to go to sleep. And I'm like, that is fucking real. Like,
That's dark, man.
yeah. No,
So
Darkman is a movie directed by Sam Raimi, and it's just as dark as this, actually.
Wouldn't he sleep then with his face down then?
Yeah, I
You'd
would.
have to.
I would wear like a sleep mask, like one of those things that go over your. Yeah.
Mm.
There's lots of ways to solve the issues that he. But I mean, I think he was just trying to make a point, right? Like
Yeah.
he was just trying to be like, "What the fuck? I don't want to be invisible anymore." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't want to be invisible."
He doesn't miss anything when he blinks.
That's true.
So he's watching TV. He sees the explosion on the news. There was nuclear fusion involved, but no contamination. He can see through his own stomach, which was that bit where I think he eats and then it shows it go into his stomach and then he pukes because he's grossed out. I don't think I'd be that grossed out by that, but it is another one of those things to
I think
think
it's more
about.
like he's just scared, like he's just freaked out.
Yeah.
I can understand being so freaked out that you throw up. Like I get that. Have you ever, like, sometimes when I have to go do like a public speaking event or something where it's like I have to speak to like 1,000 people or something, I get a little bit like I'm gonna diarrhea in my pants or I'm gonna diarrhea out my mouth. I get one of those two options and I'll usually choose the first one. But
I get that. I when I'm announcing, I get that initial butterfly, but once the adrenaline hits when you walk out, and then I'm fine. Yeah. But I do know what you mean. I had
to do a lecture at a university once, and it was like the most fucking harrowing thing I've ever experienced in my entire life because not only did I have to go up and speak in front of like, I think it was like 4,000 people, but I had to speak eloquently and I had to speak informatively. I had to make sure that I was actually getting to all the points that I was making. And it was like the worst sweats I've ever had. And all these people were going up and they were making these great fucking they all had very good presentations. And then I went up and I started going and like I tried to open with a joke because I'm a maniac who needs validation immediately. I need people to laugh immediately or I'm like gonna be a mess the entire time. And no one laughed. And I was like, fuck. And then these two guys in the front row started talking. And I started like sweating so hard because they were talking and I couldn't hear my own mind because I was listening to what they were saying. And I went like at them.
You did it into the mic though?
Yeah, into the mic.
That's funny.
That's so brutal.
And they both like looked up and then I looked at them and I was like, so as I was saying, and then I just stared at them for like 20 seconds as I was talking. They came and apologized to me afterwards, but because they were also presenters, they were just being extremely disrespectful. Like nobody was talking. Yeah, it was rude. Anyway,
he gets a call from work.
I hope they get hit by buses, both of them, separate buses at different points.
Okay,
separate buses, and then they get
separate buses. Two buses coming this way and this way with them standing in the middle, and it somehow takes them both out. So you guys not laughing there, I imagine, is how Steve felt, but instead in front of 4,000 people, which we are right now. We've got 4,000 people watching. Hello, 4,000 people.
When I say no one laughed, I mean like some people laughed, but it was not the laugh I expected. Yeah. You know, there was people like
someone was probably like, that's funny. And you're just like,
yeah, they say that out loud.
Yeah,
that is funny.
It's true. It's like when someone doesn't laugh, but they say that's funny. That's the exact feeling it is. Where you're like, well, then fucking laugh at it. Then what do you mean it's funny, but you're not laughing over here? What do I fucking?
Every time I try to reference a meme in front of a wrestling crowd when I'm announcing, everybody, I just get, what are you talking about? So I get it. He gets a call from work. He claims that he's sick. He also gets a call from Alice. He also gets a call from Sam Neill, and we get a lot of opportunities of him holding a phone and seeing the phone floating around in the mirror, which I thought was great. Probably pretty easy effect to do, but it's a very effective effect to see it done. I was really fascinated by that because there's a lot of those really subtle bits in this movie. You know, they didn't have to go through all that.
I think the impressive part isn't just doing the action. It's the way in terms of how the movement is kind of captured, and
like the tracking.
The movement makes sense the character is there. This is how the character would hold it, and this is where it would be positioned. And then when we cut to that invisible version, it matches completely. And that is one thing I will say about this movie, even in 360p that we were watching. Uh, you can clearly see continuity wise in terms of the special effects and the visual perspectives. Like there was absolute care that was presented there, and I appreciate it.
That's actually one thing that I forgot to mention during the production talk was that John Carpenter said I hated making this movie because we essentially had to film it 2 times, one with them and one without them, and I was like, I didn't know I had to do this. I thought you could get rid of them, I didn't know I had to do all this shit.
I had heard about this new thing called CGI, and we weren't allowed to use a single second of it because we did not have the budget. $20 million went to Daryl Hannah and fucking Chevy Chase.
And every single dollar you see on screen.
Yeah. The military shows up to get him. We get some more physical comedy of him trying to put on a jacket, which made me laugh. And like we were discussing earlier,
that's the moment that I'm like, again, if this was an Ivan Reitman production, that would have been way longer and way funnier. Because it is funny. It's not funny. But I feel like there's at least 30 more seconds of humor from that. Think about the moment in The Mask when Jim Carrey hears the cops at the door and then he opens up the closet to get rid of the pajamas, and then all the money comes out, and it's Jim, when he's scrambling around trying to use the frisbee to get and how funny that is. It's almost the same scene at its core in terms of what the humor bones are, but one is far funnier than the other because they let it breathe and let it kind of adapt a bit more. And him dropping a shoe is funny, but it should be a little bit more funny because how would he be able to see the shoe? He just immediately grabs it again. That's not funny, but him trying to put his arm into his jacket is funny, but let it work, man. You guys, it's built into the script. You can make it so much funnier.
That's what's sad about having Chevy Chase for this, because he is kind of a Jim Carrey from his own era, a very talented physical comic, and every opportunity for physical comedy in this was cut short, like you were saying. And this is a great example.
So
the next bit too, where he's climbing along the banister,
I assume he was a nightmare to direct is probably referring to those sequences where he's can you do this, and this, and this.
No, that's enough.
And then add more to it, and then he just does this and this instead of doing this, and this. He'll just do this and this, and it's we know you're funny. You can make this funnier, but he's no, this is a serious movie about an invisible man. Yeah,
my lifelong dream to play.
I can't imagine if someone is being that of a nuisance, that a hard stickler in terms of what they want, and the director has a different vision of what they want, trying to get coverage.
Yeah,
where it's okay, we're gonna reset and we're gonna,
and he's just not doing it.
He's no, we're not doing it. So it's you're forced into that one specific angle, that one specific shot.
I wouldn't even call it a stickler. I would call it a fucking wet blanket. Where you're just trying to get something done, and you're we can't. The wet blanket has been cast over everything here. Let's just move on, I guess.
Yeah.
But thank God for Sam Neill, because Sam Neill is here for the show, because he's so good in this movie.
He's so good in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is I think that's you were telling me that was John Carpenter's biggest takeaway, is he got to meet Sam Neill and then put him in stuff.
The Mouth of Madness, which not only did he just bring him back, he's no, you're gonna be my main man. And we did The Mouth of Madness a few years ago, Jaemeel, but I had seen it over, but I've watched it again and again since then, because we scalped it open, and I'm this movie kind of fucking rules. And now I watch it all the time because I fucking love it.
It's so weird.
You could have been Daryl Hannah.
It could have been you, Daryl. You could have been Sam Neill in The Mouth of Madness.
So the the banister, the bit where he's like trying to get around the guys. He probably could have. They didn't have those infrared goggles on, or the heat goggles, so he could have just walked in front of them. But instead, he chose to climb over the banister. But that was just so we get that great like him looking down shot and being freaked out about the.
He climbs over and then climbs right back up again. He could have just stayed. He could have just stayed where he was. He did not have to move at all. Yeah.
Okay, that's one issue I have with a lot of this movie is he's invisible, right?
You can
But
just stay where you are.
he's not necessarily like intangible. So like people could still technically like move their arm and hit you, but he'll like lean right over people, right? Or be like so close to them, and I'm like, all it takes is for them to stop suddenly, and you bump into them,
smell you or something.
Yeah. And we all know he doesn't
Smell.
wash his
And
hands.
you're just like, yeah, he doesn't. He refuses to wash his hands unless he's in the shower. We know this. Maybe when he became invisible, he washed his hands more because he could see all the dirt. He's like, "Oh my god, this is disgusting!" It like changed his whole perspective.
Oh my gosh.
He's just covered head to toe in dirt because he.
Yeah,
Comes a germaphobe. He's like,
yeah. He didn't understand how dirty he was all the time.
forever unclean.
Unclean.
That's. I think what we learn about Nick is that he's a complete moron who doesn't understand anything. I think it's my biggest takeaway about him not just like staying out of the way. Just stay out of the way and he would have been fine. He keeps trying to like go towards situations that get him in the line of fire.
The biggest thing that I learn about him is that his assistant genuinely cares about him. Like she's like a very nice person who like is concerned when he's sick, and like she's like, "Do you want me to order you some soup?" And he's like, "No." And then like when Daryl Hannah calls her, she's like, "Oh yeah, he's very sick, but you know, like I can help you like connect with him if you want to." Like she's like so helpful and like actually cares about him. And he doesn't seem to have anybody else in the world that he cares about other than Daryl Hannah, which is pathetic in my opinion, like at all. He has one friend who he knows he can go stay at his house without asking. That's not a friendship. That's just knowing your friend's not home and you can go break into his house. He doesn't have it. Like even I think Sam Neill or it might be Stephen Tobolowsky or whatever, where he's like, nope, both his parents are dead. He has no family, he has no friends, he's got nothing. He just has a job. And it's like, what the fuck is this guy's life?
He was already invisible.
Yeah, he was already invisible. Yeah.
Also, Stephen Tobolowsky's whole role in this movie is to be like, shut it down. Stop doing what you're doing or else you're going to jail.
He's like the Peck of the Ghostbusters universe, but like has no power. He can't actually do anything. Yeah.
So wait, when he has no dick.
Yeah.
This man has no dick.
Yeah.
Is this true?
Yeah. It's true, Your Honor.
It's true, Your Honor.
This man has no dick.
This man has no dick.
Well, that's what I heard. That's like the ADR line.
Yeah. They spray the red dye or the paint around the room as Nick escapes. They were
which I
kind
did
of
like,
mumbling, which was fun. Yeah.
Because I didn't know what they had. I was like, what are these guns? Like, are these going to be like anti-invisibility guns? Like, what is this? What is this? And then it's just like, it's like a spray paint gun. You're like, oh.
Okay.
It's just a pressure washer filled with paint.
But like he doesn't have a backpack or anything, so like that thing's gonna run out real quick. You know what how much spray paint is in a spray paint can? Not a lot. Not a lot, guys. Have you guys ever vandalized anything? No, I'm just kidding.
It was a very cheap clandestine operation there.
Yeah,
very cheap.
Did you guys notice who the old lady was that they encounter next?
Yeah, she's the one who's she's in Seinfeld, right?
Oh, I thought it was Rapping Grandma. I thought it was Rapping Granny from The Wedding Singer.
From what?
I mean, it could be. It might be the same person.
Yeah, Ellen Alberti Dow is her name, and she's been in a million things.
Yeah, she played old lady from 1984 to 2008.
Absolutely. Also, she was in Seinfeld and Hellraiser Bloodline and not the wedding singer. So it's not even.
Jason
Rapping
was
grandma.
wrong. I was right.
That's right. It's fucking 360p, buddy.
Hey, man, you could have watched it on not that. And also, old. That's ageism, Jason. You're like,
Yeah.
all old people look alike. Gee whiz.
What you're saying? We all look the same.
All old.
You
no,
know what
there's
the
a
movie,
picture of
Jason?
her.
You know what movie it was? I kind of found out late.
No, she was in The Wedding Singer. It's right
Oh.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is
she's like a.
Rapping Grandma.
I think she's a Sandler staple, isn't she? She's in a bunch of Sandler movies. I feel like.
She was on. She was in 8 Crazy Nights. Yep.
Okay.
She was
Animated.
in.
That doesn't
True.
help when it's animated. What the fuck?
But she was in like. She plays the same character in like 6 movies in a row.
Yeah,
and,
she
like,
plays
Ready to
an old
Rumble,
woman who looks like
Road
she's
Trip.
she shouldn't be living
Patch
alone.
Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they all
She's
in
in
the same universe?
54.
The Patch
Yeah.
Adams road trip universe.
Clueless.
We
Yeah.
call it the Patchy universe.
She plays old lady in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh.
That's her name on IMDb. So anyway, Rapping Granny shows up and it's fucking knocked out, which was like, wow.
She doesn't
That's
get
a
knocked
lot.
out. They come in afterwards and she goes, "Oh, I must have fallen down."
Right.
Like, what? The
They
heck?
knock her over. There's some collateral damage when they try to trank him. The guy takes a trank to the neck.
Also, that guy, I'm pretty sure, is like that, like sort of like stereotypical gay actor who was in like a million sitcoms for like years and years and years. Like he's just like the guy who comes in and he's like, "Hello, I am perhaps alternatively sexual." You're like, "What? Whoa, are you gay?" I think it was him. I'm pretty sure it was him.
Is getting his,
I don't know, like, what would his
medical-
name even be?
I don't know, gay man, probably like
Yeah,
in the
gay
credits. Yeah. He's a man alone on a terrace with a really fancy like tea set having breakfast by himself. Like and it's San Francisco. It's a gay, and he's wearing like a silk robe. Like it's a gay man. Remember in They Live when the 2 gay guys are like, "Oh my god," like he's just like one of those guys, which is fine, fair. It's the gayest city on planet Earth, I'm pretty sure. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with a gay guy getting darted in the neck to be like, "Oh," into his breakfast, as long as he's not like being bullied by other characters in the movie. He's just existing.
They couldn't get Nathan Lane, so
Yeah.
they're like,
Well, Nathan Lane wouldn't have been like.
He'd be
Nathan
like
Lane was like,
third build.
"I'm straight. I'm still straight over here."
it's like
This
call him
guy-
up.
This guy's named, even though there are characters in this movie like Man Who Hails Taxi. Also, John Carpenter's in this movie as the helicopter pilot.
Yeah,
And
you didn't notice him? I noticed
I
him
didn't
from
notice him.
360p.
minute 1. He's like the first
Yeah.
character. His mustache comes in. It's like getting blown around by the helicopter blades. Come on.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
There
you
you
guys
go.
and your
All
360p.
360p.
I was on 4K, baby. I saw all the individual hairs of that mustache blowing in the wind.
And then we get the scene in the street where I'm pretty sure this segment of San Francisco Street was also in the Hulk movie, the Ang Lee, Eric Bana Hulk movie. But Sam Neill like sees him like go through a car, and then he like basically says you can't escape.
He blows past like a guy with like a shock of white on the sides and like sort of salt and pepper on top, and he gets knocked. He like knocks him over so heavily. But like because I saw that old lady, I had like the Seinfeld thing in my brain where I was like, that old lady's from Seinfeld. And then when he knocked over that guy, I was like, that's Jay Peterman. Like in my head, like my head was like,
I also thought
I've never been knocked over so intensely in my entire life, driver. Was that you? This deserves to be a Peterman. Yeah, like my brain was thinking that. Jason, go ahead.
I thought Richard. Well, I mean, I thought Richard, the character's like, "Hello, my name is Richard, and I'm sexually harassing Daryl Hannah." I thought he was one of Elaine's boyfriends also, but he's not. I looked it up. He reminds me of Elaine's boyfriend, who's like the dickhead who I think comes to stay. No, that guy's like British or something. He reminded me of a Seinfeld character. It's not him. But that's another Seinfeld moment I had. Is
We're not
the
even
rapping?
at that guy yet.
I know, but I was talking about.
I have
where
a
you're talking
great
about-
impression lined up for when we get there. God damn it!
I can't wait. I'm excited. Was Rapping Granny also the old lady in? I think it was a different old lady where he's
In
like,
Happy
"Give me the
Gilmore?
bread, you old bag." I
No,
think it's a different old lady.
She's like, no. It's a different.
Who's-
old lady.
Who was Rapping Granny on Seinfeld? Because I saw Seinfeld in her. Let me ask you guys this: do you know the character from Seinfeld whose name is as follows? I'm scrolling.
I think she just gets drunk. It feels like it's like at a dinner table, and she keeps going like this, like, like when people say stuff, she's like,
Chances are, Jason, to answer your question, no.
oh, I know what I'm thinking of. Wedding Crashers. And you know when they go to like the island with Christopher Walken and everybody and Bradley Cooper's there, she's the old grandma who's like, he's gay or whatever. Like she's like calling the gay kid gay. She's not saying gay, she's saying another word that a word we shall not repeat. That's who she
Flamboyant?
is. Yeah. That's who she is. And then they're like, we need to put grandma to bed. And then there's like, oh yeah, no, it's
Oh,
that movie's not good either.
she's Bosco from Seinfeld. Remember, she wakes up and it's the reference to Citizen Kane. It's like, what's Bosco?
Oh right, yeah. Because
Yeah.
this is the thing. She plays a woman who looks like she should already be dead for fucking
She's been
15
decrepit
years.
for
Yeah.
40 years.
Yeah.
This poor woman died in 2015. She was 102. She was born in 1913 and lived to 2015.
That means that she was acting for like 15 years after she was past her 90s.
Yes.
They filmed her
gotta-
body. They filmed her body
Yeah.
when she was
You,
dead.
you got to get that, keep those benefits up. That's why you do a production every like, couple of years.
Every 6
Yeah.
months, you're like, I gotta do something. I need those benefits. Yeah.
She worked until 2013 and she was in New Girl. That's crazy. That she's probably in the first sitcom and the last good sitcom.
Imagine being
I'm
like 90 years
hyperbolic,
old
but-
and like living off the Hollywood system and like your agent calling you up and being like, listen, Gloria, you got to make like a 5-minute appearance in something this year because your benefits are going to run out and you have to do it. And she's like, okay, what is it? What, a lollipop commercial? And they're like, no, there's a thing called Fleshlight and you can do that.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say something like much more tame than that. You know, like you have to.
I mean, I didn't
be-
say she has to cast her vagina. I'm just saying she has to be in the commercial. Being like, this is a flashlight or whatever.
We're making 2 girls, 1 cup, 2.
2 girls, 1
Too
cup,
far.
2. That's
Too
funny.
far.
No,
That's
it's
too far.
good. I like
Okay.
that. Just because there's
Uh,
already so many fucking numbers. That's funny.
You
Okay.
just, was it
2 girls, 1
three,
cup, 2 is funny.
one,
That's funny to
C,
me.
2?
Yeah.
I'm glad you like that because that was a risky fucking jump.
Yeah,
buddy.
at first I was like, and then I was like, no, the fact that it's 2 is funnier. That's very funny.
World mind. This took a turn.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody.
Now.
Thanks, everybody. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Hey.
That one copyright strike, so that might get muted, but that's fucking.
That was worth it. I don't care.
Yeah.
totally.
Where the heck
Chevy
are we
Chase-
in this movie
Yeah,
again?
Chevy Chase is walking the streets. It's nighttime. He gets clotheslined by somebody hailing a taxi, which is funny. Like that's that's funny objectively. He also smoothly stops a purse snapper, which was also pretty fun because the guy's just like running and he just like takes
Yeah.
the purse and gives it back to the woman, which was funny.
He gently puts his arm out so that his hand just like yanks it. Like he doesn't even have to use any strength because like the guy is already running, right? But I was gonna ask you guys, like, would you have preferred some of these to be invisible? You know, like would they be funnier if they were invisible, or would they like add anything if they were invisible, or do you like it that it's him? Because I know the movie's not supposed to be funny, and I feel like and there's probably like a limit to the budget of things they could do.
Yeah.
But I'm like, would it be funnier if it was invisible? Would it be more interesting if it was invisible? Maybe they should have done a mixture of the two instead of just showing a montage of him going through.
I'll
The
let Jason go
clothesline,
first.
no. I was just gonna say the clothesline, no, because obviously you can't. It doesn't make any sense. I think that thing.
I'm talking more about the purse. Jameel, what were you gonna say?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jaemeel. Sorry.
So I understand absolutely what you're talking about. So to answer your questions, yes, but no. The reason why no is because specifically specifically as to what that scene is supposed to be, where he's reflecting. So
Yeah, I see
unless
what
they
you're saying.
change the tone of that sequence, I think it could be absolutely played for laughs and it'll work very well and be interesting. But at that point, it was like self-reflected. He's contemplating what his next action is while he's doing these things, like the stopping the purse snatcher. Even somewhat unconsciously, he's doing it.
Yeah, he is, because he's not even really paying attention. He just hears it and is like reflexively puts his arm out. Yeah,
He's like moping at that point.
yeah, but he's still. But like, I do like a moment where it's like that guy turns around and he's like, "What?" And the purse is floating back to the lady, and she's like, "What the heck?" But I mean, like, it's nice that it's him, because you are supposed to feel for him, but like, let's be honest, the fucking structure of this movie is so goddamn shambled from the beginning that like I don't really feel much for him.
Do you think that one of the problems with specifically addressing what you just talked about is that there was never a moment of fun in terms of like, I'm invisible, and if you started, like, we got like a little montage of him doing stuff that he always wanted to do, but then it slowly stopped being fun, and then you get this moping scene where he contemplates, like, this is my life for the rest of my life until this is
Almost
fixed.
like a later in Groundhog Day, where the things he's doing are just like sad and not hilarious anymore. Yeah, I see what you're saying, because that's how I felt about that moment anyway. He's walking down the street looking forlorn, and it's almost like in Groundhog Day, if this movie was a Groundhog Day, he's already done this moment 100 times. So at this point, it felt like that. It felt like he just like, okay, this is the part of the day where I got to give the purse back to the person that got it snatched. So that's a really good, that's a good point.
It's a good point, but like, and I think you're right. It would have probably given us a little bit more investment in the character. But in terms of like what's going on in the movie, I guess there's no reason for him to ever have that, right? Like, he's only concerned. Like, he's never going to be like, I need to have a good time with this. And the good time for him is like when he's getting drunk in the house and like playing tennis against a wall wearing tennis clothes or whatever. And like, I think that's this movie's version of that. But yeah, he's never having fun with it. Like, he's just doing normal things while invisible, which is funny to us, the viewer, because it's like, look at those clothes running down the beach. And when he's like, good morning, and the guy's like, good morning. And the guy's so invested in fishing that he doesn't even notice that a man is invisible running around behind him.
Is it because he's rich? So
he's already gone through everything. He's already peeked up people's skirts, and he's already done all the gross, weird things he would do if he were invisible. He doesn't need to do those things.
Where if he was an underdog, he finally has this now new ability,
or like a teenager or something. Like, he would probably do a bunch of. There's a moment where he talks about it, where he's like, I always dreamed about being invisible when I was a kid and all the shit that I could do, and like, now that I am, it's so hard. Like, and it's kind of impactful when he's like, I can't even get food. Like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to get food, because if I do it, it'll give me away. If I snatch a weenie off of this weenie stand and run down the street eating it, like, it'll be like a weenie and then it'll be in my stomach, and they'll see it in my tummy being digested.
I would have liked to see a hot dog eaten by an invisible man in this movie, though. I think Ivan Reitman
you
would have
see
had
it
the
float
same.
like a
down?
floating hot
Yeah.
dog, like, and it, like
Yeah.
getting knocked around in his stomach. Yeah.
Do you think, like, structurally wise, he should have had that sleazy friend that wants to get into all this like craziness, like Mike McKenna?
If they were teens, for sure.
Even so, like, let's say his he actually had a friend who was, let's say, down in his luck, and
Right.
they're like, let's go to a poker game, or let's
You can look behind the cards.
yeah
You can tell me what the cards are.
yeah let's find someone who's playing 3-card Monty and take them for all they're worth, or
Yeah.
something along those
And then
lines.
there's like a moment where like a cocktail waitress is, and then he bumps into the cocktail, and she's like, "Ah!" And she's like, somebody bumped into me over here. And he's, yeah, like,
Yes.
and he's got liquid on him, and people's like, there's floating liquid over here, and everyone's like, what the heck's
Everybody's
going
a New
on
Yorker
over here?
for some
Yeah.
reason. Over here. What's that that I think it's Shakespeare or something, where the Roxanne movie's about it, where the guy hides in the bush and helps his friend get the girl. I think they could do a scene like that as
Cyrano?
well.
Yeah.
Cyrano de Bergerac. Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, Jason. I think you're
Oh.
right.
Roxanne. Big nose Steve Martin. Doctor, he goes to the doctor to get inspected. And there was a funny, like, another comedy moment where there's just the CIA agent smoking a cigarette, staring at the woman stretching, which was just like,
Yeah.
That's from a different movie.
Yeah.
That's from Ghostbusters, yeah.
Exactly. The research had something
It's
to do
fine,
with
and
invisibility.
he's got like the crazy goggles like hanging around his neck, and he's like, it's fine, and it's like he's like 3 feet away from her. He's not
That's
even
what
like,
I thought was great.
yeah.
The research had something to do with invisibility, and Nick just wants his molecules back.
It had nothing to do with it. He's like, this is a freak accident. We
Nothing.
this should
forgot
not
a
have
word.
happened at all. You
Right.
forgot the word not. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I wrote "sawting" because I type so fast when I'm going that I just skipped the word because I was like, that's not a word.
Did you print out your notes after you typed it?
Sure did.
Wow.
I don't like reading them off my laptop because I lose where I am, so I
I'm
scratch it
sorry
off.
to like kind of pivot from the podcast, but that's very interesting. Okay, back to the podcast.
It's old
I keep
school.
mine in my brain.
Listen, I gotta keep us on the rails. So I figured out ways.
I
to make it
appreciate
work.
that you have those printed out.
I just write it. Okay.
Oh, your old cell phone over here. That's actually not a bad idea.
You with the good ideas. Damn it.
Yeah, come back on our show and give us more good ideas all the time, please. The Asians. Yep. No, the agents.
I mean, there are a lot of Asians in this movie, and I appreciate
there
John Carpenter for always having Asian representation in his movies. Like, he's one of the only ones that has done it since the 70s and 80s.
Since the 70s.
Yeah.
Except the thing was all white dudes, and then like 2 black guys being like, "What the fuck is with these white guys?"
I don't think they said that, but they definitely were.
No,
thinking
but you got
Yeah.
the vibe. Keith David was over it
telepathically
from
do
the
that.
beginning. Yeah,
We look at each
I
other
knew
like
There's a deleted scene where Childs asks Russell if he washes his legs, and Kurt Russell's like, "What do you mean? Do I wash my? I just let the water take care of it."
and then it blows up on Black Twitter.
yeah. I was gonna say, and then he posts about it on X.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But they do see that they see him, and they and more collateral damage. They trank the doc by accident, and they decide to just take him. They just take the doctor and get more information. But Nick shreds his clothes and escapes. And
This is okay. This is an okay moment, right? Like the effect is pretty good. The setup is pretty good, and the location is pretty good. It's all pretty good, and the resolution is also kind of good. Where like he grabs the final pieces of the pants, and then all you hear is like you hear like bare feet running away, which is like I like the bare feet running away. Which means he's naked. He's running around naked at this point. He's not wearing his full suit underneath that crazy winter. Imagine how hot you would be.
Yeah.
So just real quick, the suit.
I guess your sweat is also invisible. Like if you're sweating, it's invisible.
That's
too,
what I was
'cause it's
talking about
produced from
earlier
your
when it's
body.
like your natural oils. Do they appear? You know.
I don't think so, because he would be so sweaty wearing that crazy winter gear in San Francisco.
Your own secretions have to be invisible because otherwise, like, new blood would be pumping.
Yeah.
Would be
Like you'd be able to see all the blood in your body. It's what I was going to ask you guys. Like,
You would just become visible again immediately.
the
new
suit
skin
that
would
he,
come.
the suit he got blasted in has the ability to be invisible because he switches back to that suit. They never say it, but it's one of those things you just have to assume that that one suit that he was wearing that he switches back to when he, because when he wears the tennis clothes and he's going for the run and all of that, you just see clothes floating around. But when he's wearing his original suit, it's not floating around. It's also invisible.
So,
yeah.
Does he wear underwear or does he just wear the pants? Or the shorts?
It made me feel like he just doesn't wear underwear, because he doesn't ever have underwear on, and he, like what you were saying, Jason, his suit is the only thing that got turned invisible with him, so he has to constantly put it on. But I feel like he also seems like the kind of weird rich weirdo who's like, I wear a new suit every day, I don't have to wear underwear. But now he's like, I wish I wore underwear because fuck.
He's like that character from The League who wears the most
underwear is your bodily leaky parts that you can't control is the control mechanism from your pants. So you can wear your pants multiple days in a row. If you wear no underwear, then that's not happening, and you just have to wash your pants way more often.
That's true.
Did Joey Tribbiani constantly wash his pants all the time?
Probably. He hated wearing underwear, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the mayor of New York, or are you talking about the guy from Friends?
Joey Tribbiani, not Rudy Giuliani.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you.
Whoa, do you think that was a reference? Do you think they did that on purpose? Probably not. Just a very Italian name.
I just couldn't remember the difference.
Alice is waiting for Nick and calls his office. He's out. She's bummed. That's that scene that you were talking about where the receptionist is very caring. The agents interrogate the doc. They tranked, get some information out of them.
I'm disappointed with the resolution to this sequence.
Well, they think he's on Nick's side, but he's like, I don't know about any of this. And then they truth serum him.
Supposedly. My issue is it says that he dies. What I needed to see was scientist dies falling out of window. Right?
Yeah.
Keep with the theme. Be consistent. Right? That's his MO.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I agree. Because that whole beginning, the part in the court, I'm like, but I mean, he isn't dead. So maybe he did this every time, right? He's like, scientist dead. Mm-hmm. Crushed by car, electric. He got electrocuted by some kind of accident or whatever, and then then they're like, oh no, he didn't. He fell out a window.
Oh yeah.
I do love that Sam Neill's character is just like, I need to take care of this. He just throws you out a window every time. I've never been caught yet. That's the best way to do it. Throw them out a fucking window.
You just imagine he's you playing Hitman. It's like Sam Neill's character from Memoirs of Invisible Man. And every single Hitman mission involves you tricking someone to get to a window and throwing them over it.
Okay, 47. You need to get him to the edge of a balcony and throw him out a window. Again? Yes, 47. Who's financing this? An actor from Hollywood named Sam Neill. What? Sam Neill
from Jurassic Park?
One of the good things about the Hitman games is they've been consistent over the years since the 2015 one.
That's my Sam Neill Jurassic Park. So.
Oh, and he's like,
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I got so many smudges on my glasses doing that.
Yeah, my glasses.
Yeah, Sam Neill is great in this movie. I can't remember what my joke was going to be, but It probably would have been great. We'll
would have
move
been.
on.
I was, you know what? That was funny.
Yours was good. Yours was good.
How about these bizarre dreams about playing piano and playing tennis?
Oh, I
And
did
banging Daryl Hannah.
This
And
just
then
made
Sam
me
Neill
again.
walking in.
This again made me realize that he is just a piece of shit. Like nothing about these dreams made me think anything about him other than that, like he's a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Is anyone going to say anything other than that than me? Like no,
you're
right?
absolutely right. His flock of blonde-haired beauties watching him.
Everybody who's a man in the background is just like, "Arr!" And everyone who's a woman is like, ooh, and you're like, oh, what the fuck, man? And then he sits down at the piano and he's like, ding, 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 the piano, man. I'm so hot. Everyone wants to
Chevy Chase for sure wrote this scene himself because that's such a Chevy Chase thing.
So what about if there's a scene where I'm in a dream and every woman wants to fuck me and every man wants to watch me fuck the women in the room? John Carpenter is like,
well, I don't know.
I was thinking maybe there's a scene where like your skin gets ripped off, and he's like, no, that's not happening.
Not quite my tempo.
Yeah.
You go to his house.
Not quite my tempo.
You go to his house and it's like Boner Jams 54, and it's just that scene just on a loop.
Yeah.
He just puts it on. It's like, I love this one.
But it's not even a loop. It's like every time it ends, it's him doing a new cover that he sang of a different song, but it's the same sequence of events. Yeah.
Love this one.
Love this one. This is my favorite. Ooh, ding, 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 ding.
Oh my gosh.
In Lincoln Park. He does some investigation of his own. He sneaks into the agent's office and does some investigation, looks through some files about himself. We get a time lapse tonight. And he's just sitting there while Sam Neill is like working, and he like stretches and his ankle cracks, and then Sam Neill's like, oh, he's in the room.
This is how I would get caught as an invisible man, by the way.
You'd be like,
I got such a cracky body. Like my body cracks so much that if I was invisible, I'd walk in a room and people would be like, what the fuck? Did someone snap a dry twig in my room right now? What the heck was that?
and he also, Sam Neill, being very smart, does a little bit of a fake yawn, which causes Nick to yawn.
Yeah,
which is that's comedy in this movie that's trying so hard not to be funny. It's just so disjointed. But they make.
No. I think this is actual comedy, Jason. You don't have to like slice it up like it isn't and isn't. Like this is actual comedy. Like this
Right.
is John Carpenter had he achieved what he was trying to do here, and so did Sam Neill. And I think even though Chevy Chase was probably like getting a little too funny to maybe not make it so funny.
I love the idea.
If this was a Farley's Brother movie, there would be a scene at the end of the movie, flashing back to Sam Neill, and the 100th time where he's like locks the door and is talking to no one.
Yeah,
and then he's like knocks the door, like, hey boss, there's no one in the room. It's like you can never.
He does
be
that
too
every.
sure.
Yeah, he does that every day. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
At the
end
one of these days.
At the end of every night, he
he's gonna be an
stretches and he
invisible
goes
man.
like, he hits the lock button. And he's like, so I know you're in here somewhere. And he starts like throwing like powdered sugar or something like in a corner. Like, I know you're in here.
It's actually
Holloway, speak.
I know you're here, Holloway. Na, 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 na. They make a bit of a deal. Nick wants to go to the press, but Sam Neill wants him to be an invisible agent of change. They have a bit of a tussle. He takes him as a hostage, and we get that funny scene of Sam Neill with his like arm behind his back and the gun to his head. I imagine it's funny because the gun was clearly just like haphazardly strapped to his head when, you know, Nick is in invisibility mode, but when it cuts to him and shows the actual actor Chevy Chase, it's like held to his head like this. I thought that was a little funny Like I don't know how else he would really do it, but I just noticed how different it looked there.
No, it's great. It's
so I think the arm behind the back acting is some of the funniest, best.
But
like,
I also love the
pantomiming.
just kind of like it's like this weird sort of like jiggling mess where he's like,
yeah,
Holloway, what the hell are you doing? And like it's like moving. He's like, okay, I'll give you whatever you want, Holloway. Just don't kill me. I have children and potentially grandchildren. And you're like, this guy's lying. This guy's a liar. But like it's so good. And like it's one of like the arrow through the head like Halloween costume.
That's what I figured.
It's clearly like one of those.
Yeah.
But it's an old trick, an old Hollywood trick. See, what you do is you pretend like the gun's there being held up by an invisible man, but guess what? No invisible man. It's being held up by a weird halo behind his head. And it's like, I don't care. Like, I fucking love it. Like, I think it's so well done. And the only reason that it's good, because that could have been so bad, right? Like, is Sam Neill is holding his head so straight the entire time. Like, he's not moving his head around and stuff. He's just like holding it as if someone is holding the other side of his head. And it's like perfect mime acting where you're like, oh, this guy's a professional. This man knows how to act. Yeah, he knows what's up. He knows what he's doing here, and we don't have to actually. I bet you John Carpenter was like, so Sam, what you need to do is like pretend like a guy has a gun to your head. And Sam Neill was probably like, got it. And Carpenter was like, I love it. This guy takes direction every time. And then he goes and talks to Daryl Hannah, and she's
Daryl
like,
Hannah?
fuck you, John Carpenter. I don't give a shit.
What did you ever do, John Carpenter? I was in Wall Street.
Splash.
I was in Splash.
Yeah. I was in Steel Magnolias.
Blade Runner, the best movie ever made, according to the director of the movie, Ridley Scott.
Yeah. Nick takes off out of San Francisco. He goes.
You guys
to
ever
Georgia.
seen Ridley Scott do his Letterboxd? It's crazy.
No, but I would like to see.
He does the first two, which are like two other movies, and like they're good movies. And then his third one,
Obviously, Alien.
no, the third one is Blade Runner. He says Blade Runner. His own movie. What a I love Ridley Scott so much, and I think that his ego is so high, but he like deserves to have that ego. But saying that like one of your 4 favorite movies ever made is your own movie is crazy. Like that's wild.
That's Kanye West-esque type of ego.
Yeah,
I think that
God.
Ridley
I
Scott
am
is
Jesus.
like Kanye UK Northwest. Like he's
I'm
like
Jesus.
yeah.
He puts on gets home. He's like, let's put on a good movie. He has guests over. Let's put on a good movie. Puts in Blade Runner. He's like, I love this shit.
I love this. This is my
Now-
jam.
Yeah.
I just want at the end, I'm going to give you a questionnaire, and I just want you to tell me who was a replicant and who wasn't. And everyone's like, do you know? And he's like, no, I just want to know.
No.
You know.
Yeah.
The correct answer is everyone, and the other correct answer is no one.
They hadn't been invented yet in the universe, but had they been, or were they? Nick takes off out of San Francisco. He goes to George's summer house. This is where we get that scene of him being obsessed with clear food, so he can't see them in his own stomach. And then I was like, to what end, though? Because he could probably still see stuff sloshing around in there if he can see it at all. Anyway, I didn't think about it too hard.
Could have been an advertisement for Pepsi Clear.
Exactly. It was about that time.
Oh, maybe this was how it got invented. It was through the Invisible Man memoirs or whatever.
This
Or
movie
that's
was a
all he
bigger
drinking.
deal.
He
It's
could
like,
only drink his only sodas he could drink, I guess, would be Pepsi Clear, right? Or Sprite.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't like Sprite, but if only there was some sort of Pepsi that was clear.
It's like, if this movie makes big money, we can pair it with Pepsi Clear.
yeah, we can put Chevy Chase in all the commercials, and he'll be a nightmare on those
Yeah.
sets too.
Collect your Chevy Chase cans from Invisible Man, and it's just a regular Pepsi Clear can with like a suit and a tie on it.
It's like, don't you see the hat?
Yeah.
Turn around, the hat's
It's
there.
their way.
It's floating.
They don't have to pay him because they didn't put his face on.
If it had stuck around, if it didn't give you cancer, they could have had John Cena be the spokesperson for it later too.
Is that why it got canceled? Because it gives you cancer?
It tested poorly, but also aspartame.
But it tested positively for cancer.
There was something that had some shit in it that was bad for you, and it
Aspartame.
also and people hated it. Also, people were like, "This is fucking gross."
They're like, I
Weird.
don't want it to taste like this when it's clear. I only want it to taste
Yeah.
like this when it's brown and gross and makes me feel like it's gonna stain my teeth.
Listen, humans are fucking weird.
Yeah.
The quarter pounder versus third pounder debacle, or quarter pounder versus half pounder debacle, or whatever from the
You were
90s.
right,
where they're
third pounder. The
third pounder, yeah. They're like,
third
that's a little smaller number, so it's smaller. I was like, no, it's do you know fractions, idiot?
They
like,
don't.
no.
That's the funny thing.
No, I don't know fractions. Right. Anyway, the delivery guy comes in. There's another funny scene where he just basically is like,
So this
get
is
out.
the next scene that where I'm like, I kind of feel like there are scenes in this movie where I'm like, how would you direct it if you were a comedy director, Jaemeel or Jason? Because like it is kind of funny, right? He comes in, bing, 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 and then he goes in and he puts the thing on the counter, and there's a note being like, "Gone fishing." Just leave it on the counter and get the fuck out. And then he starts rummaging through everything, which I thought to myself, I'm like, if I was a delivery boy in the early 1990s, would I rummage? Would I rummage? Because I would be able to hear if people were coming up. Maybe I would rummage. I wouldn't steal, but I would maybe rummage. But this guy looked like he was looking for something to steal. Because remember when he picks up like the candelabra or whatever, and he's like, man,
It's like, this would hawk for a certain amount.
yeah, he's like, this is probably like $50, maybe $100. Puts it down, finds some sunglasses, and then he just says like, get out of here. I think he says dickwad. Am I right? Dickwad,
Yeah.
which I mean, fine. That's funny, I guess.
That's
but,
also in Terminator 2.
I mean, dickwad is funny because it just, I
Yeah.
guess it just means like gross.
Well, you don't have to.
Dick discharge or whatever.
Don't need to do that.
Smegmum.
What
Yeah.
like dick discharge
It
is
is.
funnier. I think dick discharge is funnier than dickwad.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I would have chased him around the house like a ghost if I was
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah.
I would have put on a movie in the background where the guy in the movie has a Tommy gun and says, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property. 1, 2, 10.
And he's like,
Keep the
I
change.
believe
you
you, but my here Tommy gun doesn't.
Yeah.
and then when he goes up against the wall, and then you go up next to his ear and you can say, get out of here, dickwad. And then he runs. Yeah. So Jason's is the same, except he added the Home Alone part. Yeah.
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 It would have been awesome if you like made the house possessed, like he made it seem like the
Yeah.
house was possessed instead.
This is, I think me and Jaemeel are on the same page. Like, make it seem
I
like
agree.
a haunted house, right? Like,
This
scare
haunted
the
house
shit
thing
out
is
of him.
good.
and then he
And
would have a good
also-
story to tell for the rest of his life.
In a few minutes, when they're like, why don't we have a seance? I thought that they were going to go, like, if this was a 90s comedy, the way it should have been, they would have gone into full cut to they're sitting around a table with a crystal
No, you're
ball
right.
on, and they do a
It does
full.
feel like a weird cut sequence that just turned into a joke thing. Like,
Yeah.
these guys like do seances with their other weird rich friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, was it no ghosting? We should have saw some ghosting happen.
Yeah.
Ghost was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
No, with the making like.
Oh, you want to see the actual? You want to see the literal ghosting?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, isn't the guy from? Hold on, isn't the guy who said? No, sorry,
No, he's not. He's not.
Yeah, I for a second I like I replaced the actors in my mind. Jaemeel knows what I was gonna
I don't
say.
know what I'm talking about.
The guy from Community who's like, and no ghost, and the hilarious man on man, but like I thought it was maybe the guy who's like at the head of the, but it's the guy from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
In my
I wonder if they
brain.
made an
they're both
invisible-
bald and funny, so like whatever.
I wonder if they made an Invisible Man reference in Community as like a throwaway line. I'll have to
To this
rewatch the
No,
whole
it was,
show.
Yeah.
it was a ghost scene. It was they were referencing
Yeah.
Ghost.
No, I know. I just.
Although I wonder if Chevy Chase would have been like, I was in a movie like this.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Did you guys ever see the Memoirs of an Invisible Man? And like Donald Glover's like, no one saw that. No one ever saw that.
Or Abed, yeah, or Abed says
Who's the
that,
black
yeah.
man in that movie? And he was like,
Me? Oh man, fucking, we'll get to that. But now he's an invisible tycoon doing rich people stuff, playing tennis, going for runs down a beach. And then right when he's just chilling out, Max relaxing, all cool, George returns home with his entourage. He's got Alice with them. He's got Richard, the deep voice man, and catches Nick off guard. They see the remnants of Nick being there, and George thinks it's his older brother Chuck, and
he's been having marital problems.
Yeah, he's been having marital problems recently. He must have just stopped by, and of course he's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants in my house.
And then they're like, but he stocked your fridge with pretty good shit, man. Like maybe we should just.
You think this guy broke into my house and gave us stuff?
This is such a great neighborhood. You have a higher quality of criminals here.
Yeah,
says Richard.
But
like,
I was not prepared for this guy's voice, and like I've seen this movie before, but like he comes in and he's like,
the air up here reminds me of children on the 4th of July.
and then like sniffs Daryl Hannah for a second, and you're like, what the hell is this man doing? He's like a cartoonish.
He's
British
a caricature
lord.
of a caricature of a rich person. It's insane.
Was this man in Red Dawn, or something? Or...
As far as I can tell, this man was in nothing else. I will say.
Well, he made his moments count.
He did.
It's true.
Even when he's just being like,
well, good night, Richard.
It's like, he's like, it's like this next level acting. Where I'm like, this guy is like, he was hired specifically because he could do this goofy voice, but like, why is he like? Again, it doesn't match. Like, it's not a comedy, right? We're not really in a comedy, but this guy is like a cartoon character.
Yeah, this dude should absolutely be in a comedy movie.
Yeah,
that's the assignment he's in.
Don't tell anyone that I cried.
What's interesting about this guy is he was in an episode of Ghostbusters with the Ghostmaster, which is like a big boss character on that show. And I can kind of like picture what that character looks like. But other than that, everything else he's been in is just like bit parts on like Empty Nest, Mad About You. Fucking, he was on Babylon 5.
He seems like he doesn't seem like an actor. He seems like a voice actor. Yeah,
but he was not really.
There's
on
a difference
else.
between a voice actor and an actor. Like, he's not there because he's like taking over the screen with his presence. He's there because he can be like,
oh, the 4th of July.
You know, like you're like, oh yeah.
He's definitely comparing business cards with his pals.
Yeah.
I had it printed on mustard white. It's off purple and yellow. When you mix the two together, they make white.
They talk shit about Nick, and he fucks with them. He turns on the TV. He pulls down Richard's pants, revealing the best underwear I've ever seen.
What? It's just a fucking thong, Jason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Jason, I have to worry if this is the best underwear you've seen.
Dude,
are you Joey Tribbiani?
You think I'm wearing underwear? I'm in my own home.
Jason was watching the movie and he's like,
this reminds me of boobies on the 4th of July.
Not to take it down, Richard says he probably killed himself, which is dark.
He says,
that's
British guy says that, right?
Yeah, that's how little they think of Nick.
Yeah, but they all laugh, and I think it's more of a polite laughter because, like, you know, when someone makes a joke, if no one laughs and there's only 5 of you, woof. That's when you're like,
I have to go. Diarrhea in the bathroom. Nervous diarrhea.
Oh God!
Yeah. And then Alice goes, "That's funny."
Doesn't crack.
That's funny.
That's pretty.
That's funny.
But she actually says, I thought you guys were his friends, because they all start to kind of like pile on top, and he's like, well, I thought, if he was my friend, he did kill himself here, I think he would do the common decency of leaving a note. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's true. But then, because it's a weird moment where you're like, this guy maybe is his friend and the only person that actually cares about him. No one else really does. And then it's like, oh, Daryl Hannah also does. But like, this guy is weirdly trying to hook Daryl Hannah up with the British guy. And it's, it's like a weird dating, like a dating board game, while he's just invisible watching, which I can only imagine would be like such a strange thing to experience, like having people talk about you, thinking you're dead, talking shit about you, and not being able to say anything without being like, I'm fucking right here. I'm invisible. I'm standing right here.
I'd be doing more ghost shit. That's for sure.
I would just be farting.
Yeah. Like right near people's faces.
Right in Richard's face, like this far away from his face. Awesome.
But would it, like, anytime someone's alone with Richard, you just always fart by Richard so people assume it's just him?
He smells
It's
that.
just like, no, it's not me. I
Perfect.
didn't fart.
He's a stinky guy.
It's the perfect plan, honestly.
I swear this entire place stinks of swamp. Swamp. Is it just me? Is it just me?
Yes, Richard, it is you. You stink of swamp.
Richard goes to Alice's room. He's a bit of a creep to her.
Yeah.
Can I come in? And he leaves.
Are you
and
reading
then,
for a book?
Yeah.
and then he comes back and then he's like cries and I don't know. I think he was lying about his wife leaving him or whatever. He just wanted to get in.
No, I think that
Daryl
was
Hannah's
truthful. I think he was,
Yeah?
because that's the reason he's there.
Oh, okay.
And like the other guy is not that much of a dickhead that he would be like,
True.
I'm gonna bring this adulterous asshole to cheat on his. I think he's just like,
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
this guy's, lost his wife. So by lost, I mean his wife divorced him because he's probably like a prick or whatever.
Because he's probably cheated on her repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, I would do that. Like if I was a rich millionaire with a lake house and like my friend had just divorced his wife and he was looking to find somebody, I would try and set people up. Like it's not a weird thing to do. But he makes it very weird by being like, my wife, she left me 3 months ago. And then he does the old like, I need you, and like jumps on her or whatever. But like, I love that it's like this weird sort of double act where she pushes him and then he yanks him at the same time and makes him fly across the room. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Don't tell anyone.
Also,
I lied.
when he leaves, Nick pushes the door closed so it slams. I thought that was a nice little subtle touch too.
That's a Ghostbusters thing. That felt like a Ghostbusters, like a Peter Venkman thing to do. Like, make it harder, please. I liked it.
But he goes down the beach to another house, gives a call to Alice.
You're missing. It is practically stated that he watched her undress and he watched her sleep.
True.
Okay, I'm just
because later. You're right. Because later Alice is like, "How long were you in the room for?" He's like, "Moo."
Well, he says, what he says is, "Don't worry, I covered my eyes," and she's like, "You can see through your hands."
Yeah,
which is like, oh yeah, but. I mean,
your gun is poking me in the in the hip.
Yeah,
I don't have a gun.
Poking me.
That's not my gun. It's my flashlight. But also, and she's like, it's still poking me. He's like, oh, it's a Mr. Big Bar. No, that's it. Okay. It's my dick. Sorry.
Ace, do you have any more of that gum? That's none of your business. It's a very personal question. I always love
so
that.
After he watches her sleep through his invisible eyelids, he goes down the beach to the house.
All right, sorry, that was funny, Jason.
Yeah,
thank you. He gives Alice a call. Basically, is like, you got to come meet me. And then when she goes down the beach, it's kind of like a suspenseful walk up to the house, and he's there dressed as the Hollywood movie monster's Invisible Man, which I thought was a great homage to that. I thought that was well played. I assume you guys like that imagery. I like the Invisible Man bandage.
I
shot.
hated it. I didn't like it at all.
I don't know why I've always liked it. It just speaks to me.
Because a wrapped man is cool. It's weird. It's scary. It's strange, especially with the goggles on top. It's like, it's one of those sort of things that has existed in pop culture forever. But
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen has
but it
it
even
too.
still exists now in other pop
Doom
culture,
Patrol.
like going beyond it.
Yeah.
Where people don't even understand where it's coming from, right? They're just like, a wrapped man with goggles is cool, and it is cool. It is very much cool, but like in Doom Patrol and like the stuff beyond it, it's not going to be associated with an invisible man anymore. It's going to be associated with like I'm a gooey guy under here or whatever. Like, who knows what it's going to be associated with? But like, an invisible man unwrapping his head is one of like the most impressive special effects in all of Hollywood, right? And like, is it as impressive as the one from the 1940s or 50s or whenever they first did it? No, because in this, it's like, how it's done. Is it as impressive as the newest Invisible Man movie that we've seen in, I think 2019 is when it came out? No, because that is like using every single bit of technological know-how that we have in Hollywood to this date to make a movie about an invisible man. This is just sort of one of those like lost artifacts of the medium, of like the ability to do that.
It's magic.
But I still like it. Like, I liked when he's doing it, and I like that the response is her being like, oh, like fainting. But like, there's so many other good examples of it that this one just sort of like gets lost in the mix,
And they keep trying to make him like rapey now. Every time he reappears, It's like, why is he so intense?
It's because everybody who writes movies is a rapist.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah. No, I think the idea is like, you can't, unless you become invisible by accident, like there's something wrong with you. If you're trying to be invisible on purpose,
I'm gonna make myself invisible. It's like, why?
Yeah, there's something.
I think you know why.
I want to be able to just do things that I can't do when I'm visible.
It's like,
yeah,
what? It's like
what?
None of your business.
None of your business. I want to be able to hear what people are saying about me at my back. Me.
Well, we're gonna get our first invisible protagonist in a long while that won't be so creepy with Sue Storm. So
yeah,
I hope so.
We'll
see.
Sue Storm gets belted by gamma rays or cosmic rays.
Yeah.
She's not trying to like see Mr. Fantastic's dick.
She's like,
she can see it whenever she wants.
Husband shower when he doesn't.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm into that. You're hot. Let that one fucking sit for a second.
It's true,
so
though.
Jenkins,
there's probably gonna be a scene where he's showering and then like the steam like it's just her face being like, hey, and he's like, whoa, I didn't know you were there. Let's
two
shower
circles
together.
2 circles pressed up against the glass.
And then a giant elastic dick like hits the ground of the shower.
Oh man.
All
The
right,
porn parody's gonna go nuts.
Let's stop.
Okay. Jenkins Superior is pissed they don't have Nick, basically threatens him, but Jenkins just threatens him right back. Like you guys were saying earlier, just like the most useless Superior ever. The guy from upstairs is just like pointless.
I
Alice
do
and
like
Nick
that though, when like somebody is like, fuck you, like to the guy above him, but like the guy above him in this movie is so weakened from the start. Like he doesn't even show him respect from the get, like at all throughout the entire movie. If there was like a moment where there was a like he feels fear from him, I would maybe respect it, but like there's no respect for this guy. He's just like, you need to listen to me, and he's like, get the fuck out of my way, you
I'm
pig.
superior. Do you feel superior?
Exactly.
It's also Stephen Tobolowsky, which plays that, he's the guy in Groundhog Day who like comes up and annoys Bill Murray. Yeah, like he's that actor, and he plays that such a fucking annoying guy in every single movie. So it's funny that he's in this like authoritative role, and then Jenkins is just like, fuck off. I'll do what I want. I'll push you out a window. How about that? Then you'll see.
There are 14 windows in this city alone that I could push you out of.
Like if this was a comedy, there would be a sequence where they're having a conversation. He notices it's a window, and he like purposely like adjusts himself so he steps away.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
like,
awesome.
so why did you get into this business? And he like puts his hand on his shoulder and he just like throws him off the balcony.
You get the Willem scream each time, like 5 times in this movie. Great. Oh my gosh. Like remake this movie. I want to see this movie remade, but just
where Sam Neill is just killing people over and over again by throwing them off balconies.
Sam Neill's still a spring chicken.
He is. Yeah.
John Carpenter and Sam Neill make this movie again.
Did he beat he had cancer like a couple of years ago? Does he beat it?
Did he beat it?
I hope he did.
I hope he did. Sam Neill rules.
He hasn't been anything in a while.
It's so funny that like as a kid I was like, that's Dr. Grant, and then as I get older I see that he's in all these movies, and then you see my favorite horror space movie. I can't think of what it's called right now because my brain's no worky. Sorry?
Alien.
No, the first favorite one.
Horror space movie is not Alien. Well,
Event Horizon.
Yeah, Event Horizon. When I was captivated by it, I watched it recently.
Jaemeel, good catch, buddy.
Yeah,
I just pulled it out of my ass.
Jason
I
was
was
like,
captivated.
threw it to me, and I was like, and then you're like, got it. Yeah.
I saw him in Event Horizon, and I was like, "That's not Dr. Grant. That's a hell-possessed demon man." And he's playing it perfectly.
You mean when he
Allison,
pulls his eyes out, he's like,
yeah,
he's got no eyes.
he got no eyes.
Yeah,
that was a good way to say that. Alice and Nick talk about the situation. We get the cigarette effect. Apparently, he smokes just to have this sequence of his lungs filling with smoke and the cigarette floating around.
At any other point in the movie except this, and I think it's just for the.
Yeah.
I wonder if he actually didn't smoke, like Chevy Chase in general. He seems like someone who maybe is like, that's for weak people, like like somebody who would like the alpha beta mentality of today.
Yeah.
Like he seems like the kind of guy who would have like adhered to that back then and been like, if you smoke, you're weak. Like
that makes sense. Chevy Chase is a
dildo.
Is a relationship guru, incel.
Yeah.
Lots of metaphors about women seeing through him and wanting to be seen, which is kind of what his character arc is, being this like rich asshole learning to like realize that he wasn't being seen for who he is. I think kind of fails because he just still acts like an asshole the whole time.
Yep.
But I think that was supposed to be the point of the movie. Maybe your thoughts?
I mean,
like poorly executed, but
I think that anything that they were trying to do with his character in this movie ultimately failed, because there's nothing that I really feel about his character other than he's scared. And the last human connection that he felt that was more than just work related was her. So like that's why he needs to bring her in, which is again why this movie kind of like ultimately fails as a movie, because I don't give a fuck about any character. I don't care about anybody in this movie.
Yep.
I'm just kind of watching it to see what happens.
Yeah.
It's like watching a YouTube video or like a police body cam video. Like what happens at the end of this?
What happens next?
Does he get arrested for being so mean to that person he arrested? Like that's
probably not.
About this whole movie.
He comes up with the scheme to get her to buy stocks, I think, in the same research center that it just exploded. It's called Allied Research, but that's not the name of the place that blew up. So I don't know. He wants to basically be a recluse who is just still rich. So he's learned nothing, right? Also, side note, Richard has a blue apron and a red shirt, and I'm like, why is he dressed like Mario all of a sudden? That was just a little note that I took. She goes down and gets like a whole bunch of dinner and takes it up, and they have a nice little dinner moment while they try to figure out the stock market thing, which ultimately goes nowhere. Because eventually she's like, you don't need to do all that. We need to just you be invisible and give me that invisible dick. And
it's like, then let's not talk about like my career and my dreams and aspirations.
No, you are woman.
like from how they described her at the beginning, how she was well connected. She's
like a photo. She's like a documentarian, isn't she?
Yes.
Like she does like documentaries. Yeah.
But that is just completely never mentioned ever again. Shouldn't she be documenting him?
Yeah.
If like it just seems
that would
like
be such a more interesting movie, right? If
Yeah.
she's the one documenting his memoirs, if she's the one filming them, like imagine like the beginning of the movie is him being like, "Let me chew some gum for you," and then like we get that scene, and then it like pans out, and it's her, and she's like, like doing that, like she's directing it or whatever, and like it turns out that they're both making the memoirs, and then like they have to like, now we have to go, and then it's like like the helicopters are out the windows, or like there's ways to make this more interesting, and I cannot discredit John Carpenter. I'm sure he thought of this. Like this is not like a thing that I'm like, this will be a better version of what other movie could be. Like I'm sure he probably thought of this. There's probably a reason that didn't happen.
He probably like, hey, how about? And they're like, look,
Listen,
stop where you are right
the
there.
Movies was supposed to be funny, and now it's not, and we don't know what to do anymore. We have no idea.
It's like, you just make the picture, right? We'll we act the picture. They write the picture. They probably like cut his legs out, like right then and there.
And instead of doing something innovative, we just get like George calls up somebody to be like, Nick is running up money on my account. So the agents are like now going to go find them. They've tracked where they are. And then we get this whole scene of her painting a face on him so they can go to dinner. Like, why in this horrible situation they're in, do they find it necessary to find some sort of normalcy instead of just escape?
I don't know.
Like,
Jason,
no, we're going to go
really
directly into
weird situation, and maybe he needs a tiny bit of normalcy.
We'll go directly into public.
Yeah.
But my point,
go through drive-through. She drives.
Yeah.
Go to drive-through.
He goes up and he's like, "Can I get a burger, a Burger King, please?" And they're like, what kind of burger you want? And she's like, Whopper. And he's like, I've never ordered from one of these before. I only go to the club where I get a bing bong burger and everything's so tasty.
It's made of gold and emeralds.
Yeah. It's a gold leaf burger. They steam the gold on top of the burger.
We do get the cool effect from seeing the paint from behind the face, which how did they achieve that effect? Was that just kind of like was that CGI or is that, I don't know.
Talked about like there are some effects in this where I'm like, okay, it's like a glove, like a blue glove or whatever they put over his face. And there's also probably like they paint his face with like the green paint, and then they reverse the effect to be like, we'll get the smoke and we'll get it on just the green, and we'll reverse everything outside of it, so it's just that. But like, yeah, there's a couple of effects in this movie that I don't really understand. But I don't really understand effects that well to be able to explain it either way.
Well, either way, he looks like a painted corpse.
Well, he even says that. He says that at one point. He's like, "You look like a beautiful woman, and I look like a dead body." And then he like pats his lips, and then he's like, like his teeth are all fucking out.
Yeah, when they go to the dinner, that's exactly what happens. He looks like a freak with goggles on, and then he wipes his face, and then it's just a quick shot of it too, like blink and you'll miss it almost. And I was like, John Carpenter had to sneak in like a little tiny bit of straight up horror, because that's what that is.
Yeah.
Like just
and it is horrifying where the teeth are just hanging there. And like, this is also the moment when I was watching this movie that I hadn't seen in a long time. I was like, is this as bad as it gets. I remember there was like I swear to God, there's blackface in this movie, and and I was like hoping that this was it, and I was like, maybe I just in my brain I thought it was because he looked so like weird, and then no.
They're like,
No,
hold
we're
on.
almost
Wait,
we're almost there.
We're not done yet. Let's keep.
Daryl Hannah didn't help us with the makeup this time, so it was
It got even worse.
Yeah, who had the?
He did his own makeup for that. Yeah.
Who had the makeup for that? It was like, was it his best friend?
He just carries around just in case he needs to do blackface. He is very rich.
Yeah.
We all saw Mad Men where,
I mean, it was definitely, he's like, well, I was about to go to a costume party where I dressed as a genie. So, I mean, I have this turban and I have this brown face makeup. Here you go.
Topical.
Or his favorite movie is Soul Man and decided to.
Yeah.
Or he just ran into Justin Trudeau in the street.
Hey, of the Trudeaus. Hey. I got this great costume idea.
Jason, you didn't like that one?
Yeah.
I did.
No, you did. Okay.
I chuckled.
You chuckled. Okay.
I chuckled.
It was funny.
They go for a nice little walk. She says all the weird things like,
I wonder how much a gun costs. What?
You can do all kinds of stuff Invisible Men can do, like look up ladies' skirts and rob banks.
How can you rob a bank if you're invisible is the question that I
just 2 bags with dollar signs float out the door.
Yeah. Fill them up.
Yeah, she doesn't want to help him live like a recluse. She also mentions here again that she has connections in fucking Washington or whatever, which is like, what?
He dismisses it, and she's like, "You're right." I'm like, "What? What is going on?"
No one in there can help you. It's like, it makes me feel like, is her like uncle the president of the United States of America?
That would be hilarious if it was. Family friend is the president.
I mean, I assume they meant Washington State, which is north of wherever the fuck they are, the east or the west.
Well, yeah, like Washington State. Yeah, like why didn't they go up north? Mexico was the decision, but anyways,
right? We're going to Canada.
Yeah,
from
you know
San
that
Francisco.
If they go to Vancouver, if you show up as an invisible man, they're like, "Invisible man, oh man, that's automatic citizenship here. We love America. We love invisible men up here, and women."
The amount of people who are, there's a lot of people living on the streets. So anyone sees you, it's like, oh, they're on drugs. So there's a dispensary.
So
right across the border.
This is a crazy thing. You know, when he first runs into that guy who's like, I'm fucking, and he's like, he looks crazy because he's like talking to nobody. I thought there was gonna be like a weird, like a homeless person talking to no one thing where he was gonna like talk to them and like set them straight or something.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't happen.
Nope, because that would make you like the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Like they never made him really truly likable because Chevy Chase is unlikable. It's like, how do you do the
imagine it was a thing where it was a homeless guy who like smelled bad or whatever, and then he got the cab because he was like puppeteering the homeless guy, and then he like made the guy in the cab like the homeless guy via talking. Actually, that's weird, and that's actually not that good. Now that I think about it,
we got a little bit to go, so I'm gonna move this.
Sorry.
Basically, I think we also see like the water hit him and they kiss here. That might actually be later, but there's a lot of them making it whatever.
Nick.
Yeah, when you're just
but he surely saw him with the makeup on. This is the thing that bugs me about this part.
She saw him. She's seen what he looks like before.
She's already seen him. It's not like she doesn't know what he looks like. She saw him with the makeup on. She saw him when she fucked him in the gentleman's club's bathroom or whatever. And like, it's not like it's this moment makes way more sense if you run into somebody you've never seen before and you're like, I'm invisible and I need your help. And then that person decides they're going to help you because you're invisible.
You're black.
Wait a minute, you're black. Yeah. She starts like putting the makeup on you, and you're like, your features are wider than I thought they would be.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh, that was so great. So great.
Oh,
Comedy gold, Jerry. Comedy gold.
that's that was risky, but that's like my two girls, one cup too joke.
It's not to say that you're not handsome. It's just to say that I didn't expect your bottom lip to be this squishy.
Oh my god.
Well, that's our show for this week.
We're canceled next week. Yeah.
Oh no, Black Twitter's gonna love this episode.
Yeah, plaster it all over there. Right. So the feds are onto them. They leave. They have that kiss in the rain thing. Basically, they get on a train to go north like idiots. Jenkins shows up with a picture of Alice.
Wait, aren't they going? No, they're going south to.
They're going south to Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, they are
They're going
going
to San
south.
Diego,
Okay.
and then from San Diego, which to me doesn't make any sense. Well, I guess so. You can go to San Diego, and then from San Diego, you get on the MTS, which is a trolley, and it'll take you straight to the border. I know.
What have you done in the States that you know this?
I go to Comic-Con, which is in San
Oh,
Diego.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
He's like, I know my trains.
I know my trains and how to escape to Mexico.
If I need to. Which I have twice.
But they get on the train at the next stop. More lovey-dovey shit from the two of them. She gets up to like go get him a steak or something, and Jenkins shows up and grabs her. Now they have special goggles so they can see invisible men. They can see the heat signature. They end up chasing him down and tranquilizing him, and he's running away and jumps out of the train off a bridge into the river. Survives. Commercial break.
Commercial break. Miss Cleo.
Miss Cleo shows up. Yeah.
What did she say this time, guys?
Well, this is the commercial break where she does show up, and I was scrubbing through, and I saw her, and I was like, Miss Cleo. So I stopped and watched the commercial. Yeah, finally. There's a documentary I think on Netflix about her rise and fall. And
about Miss Cleo?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What's it called?
I think it's called like Miss Cleo.
It's called Call Me Now.
Yeah, something like that. The current takes him downriver, and Jenkins tries to recruit Alice now. He's like, we can work together. You can be an agent of change. Even though Nick says, okay, so this was dumb to me. They're like, Nick says in his memoir, they could, for all they know, think that I'm dead. And Jenkins is like, he's definitely not dead. And then he immediately calls them to be like, I'm not dead. So, okay, great. Nice work, storytelling.
Because they have Alice and he needs to get her back.
Yeah. And then he threatens to call the news again. He wants to make.
That's his only threat, really. Is like, I'm going to tell the news and the FBI. And you're like, well,
that I'm invisible.
Shit.
Yeah. But he wants to make a trade for Alice for himself, and they go to make the switch. We get into the final showdown segment. They just send Alice away in a car and grab Nick, but they unmask him, and it's George. Did I miss something here? Because from my point of view, just George shows back up dressed as an invisible man.
He says that Alice is in trouble, and because Alice is a family friend of George helps, but he didn't tell him anything. He gave him a cockamamie story.
Yeah. I was like, what kind of cockamamie what are we gonna get here? Yeah. I need to know.
Story.
Well, you made me second guess if it was cockamamie or cockanani or whatever the first thing you said.
No, cockamamie, I think is right.
Cockamamie, right?
Cockamamie? Jeez.
Chad, is it cockamamie? Yeah. At any rate, they go for the switch. It's George. George is like, I don't know what's going on. I'm clueless to everything, which was kind of funny. But then they get in the car. She jumps in a cab, and it's Nick.
This is also where we learn that his friend is actually his friend. Like his
he
friend
has
is
one
not
friend.
just his rich friend. He's his rich friend who's like, I'm also gonna put myself in danger for my friend because I really now do believe that he's alive. What?
But did you do it because it was his friend or because Alice is a family friend?
You're right. You're right.
Oh, no.
I don't
Does Nick
know.
have no friends?
Well,
except for a hot blonde submissive breedable woman.
Steven, I would like to believe it's both.
Yeah.
Right? That he would believe him because Alice is a family friend and because he is an actual friend. Regardless, he always thought the most positive version of the situation for Nick. So I think
he defended him when Richard was like, maybe he killed himself.
The thing that sucks though is that, like, for me, that was like my one moment where I'm like, he does have a friend, but you have just presented an idea to me that makes it still feel like he has no friends at all. He has not a single friend.
Sorry.
You know what? I'm okay with it because I already thought he had no friends the entire movie, so that's fine. Because, like, she was the friend first, right? Like, maybe it is that. And he's just a piece of shit that nobody likes. He's just an invisible piece of shit.
Yeah, through his invisibility, she finally saw him for the invisible piece of shit that he is.
Yeah, not even his own
She's
friend.
into that.
But he does say, like, where's Nick? Where is he? He's supposed to be here, right? When they, like, rip his thing off.
Well, he is there. He's in a cab in blackface or brown face or whatever. He's wearing a muumuu also. Some sort
but
of.
His teeth are so white.
So white.
Like, disturbingly white.
It could have been worse, though. Like, in terms of blackface on film.
Yeah.
Like, we have Trading Places as a prime example.
Yeah.
on the range of
was it
Tropic Thunder
to John Wayne?
Yeah,
Tropic
to John
Thunder.
Wayne. You know, like, could be worse.
Could be worse.
Not great. It's 1992 in this movie. It's not 1932.
I mean, at least he wasn't doing an accent.
Yeah.
He does a fucking Indian accent too. Yeah. Oh, that would be. You know what? That would have fit. You just go all.
He was just like,
that point.
Hey, how's it going?
Like,
Mike McKean.
Michael McKean. Yeah.
I'm sad to say that my favorite role from him, or movie that he was ever in, everyone will say the classics, you know, but my favorite movie that he's ever been in features blackface, or should I say brownface, because it's Short Circuit 2.
Okay.
I love that movie.
That's true.
And I love him in that
Circuit
movie.
2 has blackface?
Brown. Oh,
well, Fisher.
I've seen it, but
Fisher Stevens.
Plays an Indian man in
he plays
both
an
of
Indian
them.
man. Yes, I have seen
Banned from India for like I think it was almost 2 decades.
Oh my god!
He does it really.
I almost
like,
did the impression until I stopped myself.
He does it like the impression you were about to do too. It's not even like subverted. He just is like full head swivel.
He said that he really went method with it though.
I mean, Jason, to be honest, the head swivel it's not that you have to do it. If you don't,
that is
do
a
it,
mannerism that is very consistent.
Yeah,
for that region.
Yeah,
that's a real
okay.
thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right. So we get a bit of a chase.
Me and Jaemeel almost both started doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I do it all
I
the
saw
time.
you both doing it out of the corner of my eye.
Where you're like, who's gonna do it first?
I can't help it. I live in Brampton. I can't help it. So
yeah.
I lived in Brampton for many, many years, and I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good little town. It's a good little place.
Driving is scary though.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna mention it, but I thought we could move past it.
I will also say that when I moved out, my insurance went hundreds and hundreds of dollars down.
Yep.
Hey, you know, illegal street racing is a real clear and present danger. Bit of a chase. Nick bounces. Jenkins' superior keeps just yelling at him that he's shutting him down. Jenkins is like, no way. They find him and catch up to him. And we get that scene of just a floating blackface head running down the street. He runs through a fire hydrant and washes off the paint. Finally, I could stop squirming in my fucking seat. He goes into a construction site. Jenkins tries to talk him down once again in an elevator. Doesn't just nab him in the elevator. Just tries to be like, well, you could be an agent of change with me. We could take over the world together. Which is so like villain. Such a villain thing.
Because he had to get him to the height so he could throw him off the building.
Throw him off something.
He was like, "How many more floors do we need to go up before I can kill you?" Yeah.
And we get the final showdown at the edge where Nick is holding his cocaine-covered jacket like some sort of matador, and he's like, "I'll jump."
This is like the best part in the movie, I think, because like when you think about like what I would do in as an invisible man, this is not something you would ever think you would have to do, but this is something you would think to do if you were like pressed so far, where it's like everybody wants to kill me because I'm invisible. You would probably do this, right? Like you would hold up a jacket with like paint splattered on it and stuff.
I'm surprised he didn't do this like earlier in the movie. Yeah. It's a good thing. And then he lunges towards the jacket and then just like eats shit. He throws himself off the building as his final act.
That feedback, that pressure to push off.
Well, also it's on like a board, right? Like a board that sinks forward when he walks on it.
A gangplank?
A gangplank. It's not a gangplank. No, it's just a board. Just a board.
And then at the bottom, Daryl Hannah's like touching the ground to try to find.
She does some pretty good miming here too, which is like she picks up half the jacket and then she's like,
"Oh yeah,
like yeah," and then like half is
the invisible half.
Like, yeah, you're like, "Oh," but like at that point, I'm like, "All right, just stop."
And then Nick comes up behind.
We know it's not invisible.
Nick comes up behind her and goes, "Get out, dickwad." And they leave. They just walk off. They just walk away into the end. And then in a really weird choice, was this way for you too, Steve, in the 4K version, or was this a made for TV thing where we see them live happily ever after in like, I don't know, the Colorado mountains as skiers, still rich, clearly. She's pregnant.
Yeah, I assume he's wearing
rolling over top of it though.
Aren't invisible clothes, and he's just skiing about it. Yeah,
right. But were the credits rolling over that for you?
Colorado or is it Switzerland?
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe. Oh yeah, Switzerland. Right. Yeah. That makes
it could have been wherever. Yeah. Anywhere where mountains are. Yeah.
I think they mentioned Switzerland at some point in the movie, though. Now that I recall. But
yeah, they were like, no, they said I love skiing. They didn't say they love.
Oh.
He said Switzerland. Yeah, I can, spend my majority of the year in a ski suit or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And now he has to because he's invisible, I guess. Is he invisible forever?
To get any type of help to reverse the process.
No, they stay invisible. They run away to Switzerland. The credits roll over top of them like the movie didn't even fucking care. And that's the end.
Free
that's
Jack's
just
next.
how it ends. Yeah.
Free Jack is coming up next. And if you ever wondered what it meant to be a free jack, then you've never been in a Formula One race that sent you to the future. Yes. Stay tuned to Free Jack. It's coming up next on Squibble Dibble Radio.
UPN.
Emilio Estevez, Mick Jagger, Free Jack.
Free Jack. So that's the movie. We're a little bit over time, but we do still have one or two little things that we'd like to do here on the show.
Eat it, Davin.
Why don't we go into our final thoughts / Home Alone of it all?
The Home Alone.
If you had to pick one,
what do you think the Home Alone of it all?
When is the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
So this is our segment where we do our final thoughts, but it is also now the segment where we talk about our Home Alone of it all. And if you don't know, the Home Alone of it all is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, the part of the movie you came to see is when Kevin McAllister slaps down the blueprint and then horribly tortures two poor men Saw style until they submit. So basically, Steve, why don't you go first to sort of show Jaemeel how it all goes down? I'm going to prepare something for us.
The Home Alone of it all in this movie, for me, is, I mean, it's the moment when he wakes up, when he's like, and like everything is all broken up. The building is all broken up, and he can see through, but you know, he understands what's going on, like barely, where he's like, my hands are invisible, my hat's invisible, not my hat's invisible, but like everything's invisible around me. And then he goes up and he tests everything, and then he looks out and he sees that there's like a whole government agency like planting him with lights and stuff. And then he puts the hat on, and that's when that's the Home Alone of it all for me.
How about your final thoughts?
Jaemeel, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. The Home Alone of it all for me is speaks to when he is already invisible, and he's in the room, and they're coming to get him, and he's struggling to find his clothes. And this movie is basically funny sequences that are marred with a tone that can't be found, like a coat that's invisible and trying to be placed on, right? There are still funny moments, and the premise, everything is still there, but it's just out of reach. It's just on their back, or they're not able to find the hole. This movie is not being able to find the hole.
I forgot what we're doing, Jason. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nicole. Let's just do it separately since we already did it this way.
All right.
We combined these two things in the last episode and going forward, but you know what? Let's just do them separately. It's fine. My Home Alone of all is very quick. The second that building goes nuclear and the hat's floating around, pretty much from then on, the movie begins, and all the time that he's invisible. I think that final. I was just going to say, like, the final showdown as well. But let's go into our final thoughts, shall we?
If only I could find the final thoughts thing to press. Where is it? It's all. I think I deleted it. So here it is.
Perfect. Steve, why don't you give your final thoughts? Oh, there it is.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Yeah.
My final thoughts about this movie is that it is not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, over years and years of like hearing the panned relationship between John Carpenter and this movie, and like how much respect I have for John Carpenter and how much disrespect I see for this movie. I've never really like thrown disrespect at it unless I, had reason to, which was like when I watched it the first time, being like, yeah, this is kind of like a bullshit movie. But then watching it now, I'm like, you know what? This is a John Carpenter movie, and it deserves a little bit more respect than I think it gets. Because it is a John Carpenter movie, and it feels like a John Carpenter movie, and everything about it is a John Carpenter movie. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that his experience was bad, and the experience of a lot of people making it was bad. But I don't really hate the movie at all. I think it's all right. And if I had to give this movie a rating, I would give this an invisible rating. You'll never know. You'll never know what my rating is. Jaemeel, what's your rating?
My
and
rating.
final thought.
Oh, final thoughts. Okay. I didn't really know what to expect when watching this movie, and even though I'm necessarily disappointed with the final result, when you look at the pieces, there is a lot of competency that is featured there. In terms of this is a movie that is not poorly directed, that has really great special effects, and there is it's competently made at the end of the day. Where this movie fails in a lot of the choices for the characters, right, which is more of a writing issue and probably a personality issue in terms of the direction from the stars, kind of directing themselves as opposed to taking the direction from the actual director, because we see Sam Neill doing a fantastic job. So when you take those pieces aside and you look at them individually, you see a lot of hard work and great thought overall. Just some pieces, kind of that major pieces, just aren't up to par. So that's what I think of the movie in general. Would I watch it again? Probably watch clips to kind of enjoy the art that is there, but the performances outside of Sam Neill, not really interesting. Rating overall, I think people should watch it, but they're in for a ride that is very bumpy. So take your I was gonna say Midol, but not Midol. It's the what is
Gravel?
Gravel? Yeah, gravel. Great thing. Now, overall rating about 4.7.
Out of 10?
Sure. Out of 20? Out of 10? Sure.
Yeah. Out of whatever you want it to be, big boy.
All right. This is where the applause usually. Okay. It feels weird to say this, but only because the applause usually go during this segment. But we did that already. The film was okay, not great. I think it's a testament to John Carpenter's abilities as a filmmaker to do pretty much every Invisible Man gag well, which he did. Chevy Chase is a ham, and Daryl Hannah is not great. I would probably have cast someone not known for comedy specifically for Chevy's role. I think they should have leaned into more comedy if they're going to have someone like that. Overall, 2.3 out of 5. Serviceable, but definitely below average, and definitely not John Carpenter's best movie, but some of his best special effects work, I would say. And my actual final thought, or my actual rating for this movie is...
It's nice to have you on the Drew Show, and welcome to Miss Cleo's special appearance.
You are both still very attracted to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, because that's about the only talking you do is that pillow talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Outside of the bedroom, we're not having a conversation for each other.
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me?
Yes.
Because me see it here, the lover's card, and there's an outside person here by the page of cups that is causing turmoil there. Looks like it is on your side, and it is a male on your side.
Okay.
You know who that is, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
You identified them immediately.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mind yourself. You understand me? Me always say, finish your food on your first plate before you go back and get a second plate of food, huh?
Okay.
Great call.
Find out the truth about your love life. Call me now for your free reading.
Call 1-800-329-9861.
Log on to mycleo.com and you could win a free trip to Florida for an in-person reading with me, Miss Cleo.
Call me now.
I love her call guy. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you have to say, Miss Cleo? Okay, cause I fucking can now. No. You're like, what the heck?
No, this is no. You could do that all day. You get
Call me now.
Your card is in the mail. Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
That was great. Trip to Florida for in-person reading. Oh my gosh.
I also give this movie a painted on mask that horrifies, but is well done enough to pass as human skin. So we did it. We covered the movie. We saw Miss Cleo. We talked about a lot of different things. The only thing left to do is talk about some plugs, and then we can all go to
let me
bed.
just plug this in right here and.
Yeah, he died.
Jaemeel,
Hey.
now's your time to tell us about what you got going on. I hear you got something coming down the pipe.
Yes. Well, I'll let you know. If you were excited with what you heard tonight, you can keep watching this show. But in addition, you can watch my new show, which is going to be released anytime I finish editing, which should be shortly. All right? You know the drill. It's coming soon. Don't worry.
I think you lost a bit.
I have a ton of bits.
We all have tons of bits.
Some of them kind of fall. It's called the True Currency Pop Culture Podcast, where we talk about pop culture things. It's a conversational podcast. We usually focus on one major topic. First episode, which should be coming by the end of the week, pending any loss of life or loss of limb, is an episode on Mufasa versus Sonic and Scott Westerfield's Uglies movie that was on Netflix.
All right, the movies, not just like what would happen in a fight between those two. We're both in theaters.
Who knows what we're going to talk about? Check us out, True Currency Pop Culture Podcast.
Awesome. Well, Jaemeel, I'll give you the hey, did you see this one seal of approval? You're welcome back here anytime. Obviously, you are in our stable. Well, I'm in your stable. Let's be real. Me and Steve are in the United Fashion Podcast stable. Speaking of Stephen, Visible Waters, which is a pretty good name, I would say. What do you got going on these days, my man, my guy?
Well, as always, I have the Darth Theorist YouTube channel, as well as the Three-Eyed Theorist YouTube channel, and then I've also got True Crime Stories. And like a bunch of other stuff. Just keep listening, keep listening, keep listening. I'm like R.L. Stein, I guess. Keep listening.
Viewer beware, you're in for a scare.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Steve. When it comes to old Jason Phillips, you can catch me every month at the Great Hall right here in Toronto. I'm the ring announcer for Super Kicked Wrestling. I'd also like to let everybody know that I have officially joined the Mary Mater Marvel. Did I do it right?
Dude, I never get it right. It's fine.
I've officially joined. I'm a card-carrying member. I'm gonna have 2 cards in my wallet coming up real soon. And one of them, of course, is the Marvel Mary
Marvel Mater Society.
Mary Marvel Mater Society, where we're right here with Jaemeel, in fact, where we're going to talk about next Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which I'm very excited for. I'd also like to let everybody know.
Technically, it's supposed to be Brave New World first.
Or is Brave New World first? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, there's a lot of stuff on the docket. We're going to pull it all apart. The episodes will be much shorter. Even though we're going to do a full series, it'll probably be shorter than this. We have merchandise for this show, believe it or not. We have a TeePublic, we have the other thing, Redbubble. You can get such artwork that Steve, well, he's left now, but we can get artwork like this, the Grimoire of Familiar Killers. Get that slapped on a shirt. That's art by our very own Stephen Waters. We've got Kill Aid Man, fire that on a shirt, give it to your grandma. She won't know what the fuck it is. Also, Twinkerbell. Why won't somebody please just buy a Twinkerbell shirt? You love to see it. No, because I haven't advertised it properly. It's kind of just soft launched right now. And coming soon for the holidays, I keep saying this even though I haven't put it up yet, get Zardos on a shirt. Again, drawn by Steven, very talented artist right here on Hey, Did You See This One?
That's
and
me.
Lots more coming. If you see a joke that you'd like to be turned into a shirt, send it our way and we'll consider it. I'd also like to promote this very podcast each and every week right here on that's going to be that's a little hint of something that's coming down the pipe for the show and the channel. Let's just say Dr. Freeze Your Crane is going to be getting some scrambled eggs and salad for everybody.
Well, I will tell you, I'm listening.
Perfect.
We're always listening.
But you can find this show live every week on Thursday at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Twitch. I usually put it up the next day between 12 and 2 for on demand on YouTube. I make an audio version that goes up the next day every week. I've been doing lots of stuff here and there on internet. You can play our little fan guessing game every Monday and Tuesday, and that's pretty well everything. I think that we went a little long tonight. We'll send this directly to Davin. He can watch it in full. But there's a thing that we like to do around these parts when we're ending a show. We have the guest ask a little question. And I think, Jaemeel, you might know what that question is.
Hey, did you see this one?
Hell yeah.
That was the Halloween version, Jason. What are you doing?
Well, because John Carpenter's spooky. I used the spooky.
Oh, I see.
I've been doing that. I did it last week. I did it another time, and Worldmind was like, "You're using the Halloween thing. What are you doing?" I'm like, it's spooky. It's spooky times.
Well, I have to stand up for the people, and they don't like it, Jason.
So good.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.